Chapter 1585. Everyone was speechless. Previously, they could not see through the darkness, but now that the darkness had dispersed, they could see that Zheng Mo's body was covered in wounds. They could imagine how terrible his condition had been at the time. If it were him, would he have been forced to use his full strength? Probably, it was a warrior's instinct. Zheng Mo's face was livid. After a slight hesitation, he brazenly attacked, grabbing at Ling Han. Since he was forced to use his full strength, he might as well go all out and take down Ling Han. Ling Han's gaze grew cold. If Zheng Mo had kept his promise and fought him at the same cultivation level, then even if he lost, Ling Han would still have some respect for him. But Zheng Mo wanted to use his higher cultivation level to bully him? Then you can eat your own medicine. 1. The 27 killing formations in his body activated at the same time, and Ling Han's entire body instantly exuded a terrifying aura. He raised his right hand. There was a ray of light that was only an inch long on his fingertip, but anyone who looked at it would feel their heart palpitate and feel uneasy. Zheng Mo had already arrived, but he forcibly halted his charge, looking as if he had seen a ghost. He stared at the light in Ling Han's hand, and his expression changed. What is that? Super invincible. Slashing the heavens and destroying the earth, slaughtering the light, Ling Han said solemnly. Zheng Mo wasn't an idiot and immediately realized that Ling Han was toying with him. He couldn't help but snort coldly and say, "You're just trying to be eloquent, but before absolute strength, you can only be crushed." Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. "Then why aren't you making a move?" Although Zheng Mo's words were filled with disdain, he did not dare to be careless in the slightest. Although it was just a ray of light, he seemed to have sensed a primordial beast within Ling Han's body. If it were to charge out, it would be able to destroy everything. His face was solemn. At this moment, he had an incomparable advantage in terms of strength, so he had to make good use of it. He threw a punch at Ling Han through the air, and the terrifying power turned into countless gusts of wind. He didn't use any cultivation technique, and just relied on the crushing power. This was a very clever way of fighting. A single move could break through 10,000 techniques. Ling Han charged out, and when the force arrived, his entire body radiated with formation light, easily shattering the force that was assaulting him. He was completely unobstructed as he continued to charge toward Zheng Mo, as if no technique could touch him. This Zheng Mo was so frightened that his hairs stood on end. He could clearly sense the strength of the power in Ling Han's body. However, he had already spoken so confidently and had already unleashed his full battle prowess. How could he still have the nerve to dodge? He gritted his teeth and struck out with his left hand to meet Ling Han's attack. Hong, fist force surged out. He was still cautious, not wanting to fight Ling Han at close range. Ling Han charged straight through. The killing formation displayed its might, and Zheng Mo could not stop it at all. He closed in on Zheng Mo. Bang bang bang. Zheng Mo was helpless and could only exchange blows with Ling Han, throwing out 3 consecutive punches before he managed to force Ling Han back. He raised his hand and saw that his left hand was already a bloody mess. The killing formation was too frightening. Even if he wrapped his fist with origin power, it was useless, and he was still riddled with wounds. Everyone was also stunned. Now, Zheng Mo's right hand was broken, and though his left hand was not, it was not much better. It could be said that he had been utterly defeated. Ling Han had clearly not used any kind of precious tool. The strength of this outsider was too astonishing. Even a pinnacle-level king tier that had formed 2 million stars would pale in comparison. Probably only a king tier that had formed over 3 million stars would be qualified to match him. In other words, Ling Han had already become an absolute big shot in the Eternal River tier, able to stand alongside Zhang Ting, Yi Quan, and Lu Dang. Only Genesis tiers could defeat them. But the problem was Ling Han was presently only in the high extreme. If he advanced into the pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier, how strong would he be? Would he be able to match a demon master? Ling Han was unforgiving when in power. He had not provoked anyone, so why was he always targeted? He had no temper. His fists were like rain, and as the killing formation circulated, he was like an Azura demon king from hell, his murderous aura soaring into the skies. Zheng Mo was unwilling to admit defeat. If he publicly admitted that he was no match for an elite in the high extreme of the eternal river tier, would he still have the face to see others? The result was that the wounds on his body became more and more numerous and more serious. In the end, he had no choice but to activate that scaled armor, forming a shield around his body, and only then did he block Ling Han's attacks. This was a demonic tool, one of the precious treasures of the Zheng clan. Because he was too outstanding, it was specially bestowed upon him. It could only be used for defense, and was given to him to protect his life. He was only a step away from the Genesis tier, so he could more or less completely activate this scaled armor. At least, power below the level of a demon master could not possibly break through it. The battle between the two of them finally reached a stalemate, because Ling Han's defense was practically invincible in the eternal river tier. Neither of them could wound the other. But everyone knew that Zheng Mo had lost, and lost very miserably at that. He had used his full battle prowess and even used his demonic tool, but he could actually only fight to a stalemate. Stop! Lu Gan did not continue. Wasn't this acting shamelessly? He moved, and separated Ling Han and Zheng Mo with a single palm strike. It was as if he had drawn out two different worlds. This was the strength of a black demon. All of you work hard. Those who are ranked at the bottom of the rankings have to take note. If you are ranked at the bottom 3 times in a row, you all have to leave this place. Lu Gan's eyes swept over them, causing the few of them to turn pale. If they were expelled from the Green River Valley, that would be a great humiliation. Everyone dispersed. The competition here was too intense, and no one dared to relax. Here were all top-notch king tiers. If anyone relaxed even slightly, then they would be waiting to be surpassed by others. Ling Han could be considered to have completely revealed his brilliance in this battle, making everyone remember him. However, the most outstanding newcomer this time was still Gu Feng. Though he had not made a move at all, his cultivation level was there for all to see. This was a true big shot of the younger generation, and in future, he had the chance to become an existence on the level of a heaven demon. Of course, Empress Luan Xing had also won everyone's attention. The men were filled with admiration, while the women were madly jealous. Ling Han and the Empress returned to the stone chamber. In this battle, he had still realized that he was not strong enough to sweep aside the entire eternal river tier. This was something that could not be helped. The people here were all top-notch king tiers, and it was not easy to defeat them at the same cultivation level, what more when there was a gap of a minor level. If it was not for the fact that Ling Han had cultivated the indestructible heaven scroll, and his godly bones were incredibly tough, allowing him to inscribe so many killing formations, he could only abide by the iron law of martial art, and lower his head in front of these king tiers. They continued to cultivate. The Empress's cultivation level was practically growing explosively. She had 10 bodies, and could ingest alchemical pills at the same time, and comprehend under the reincarnation tree. The terror of the 9 Deaths Heaven art was definitely evident. Ling Han also taught the Empress celestial techniques such as the Tide of the Ages, the Great Evolution Technique, and Darkness of the Paramount Night. He was sure that when she also advanced into the pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier, her battle prowess would definitely be able to crush the big shots. With a Celestial King tier cultivation technique as a foundation, how could this not be awesome? Time passed very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, another year had passed. The Empress had already reached the peak stage of the high extreme, and was on the verge of breaking through to the consummate level. Meanwhile, Ling Han had just barely managed to advance a step, and reached the middle stage of the high extreme. Right at this moment, a major event happened in the Heaven-Crushing Alliance. A new Forbidden Land had joined the fray. Eastern Chang Forbidden Land, Tan Clan. Chapter 1586. The Tan Clan actually joined the Heaven-Crushing Alliance. Wasn't it said that the ancestor of the Tan Clan was cowardly, worried that forcibly interfering in the evolution of the heaven and earth would incur the wrath of heaven and earth, and a heavenly tribulation would descend to directly erase him? Why did he suddenly want to join the Heaven-Crushing Alliance now? When Ling Han learned of this news, a cold smirk involuntarily appeared at the corners of his lips. The Tan Clan had come for him. They knew that he possessed a celestial king technique, so how could they be willing to give it up? However, he had already gone to the Green River Valley, so how could the Tan clan still dare to attack the Green River Valley by force? Thus, they simply joined the Heaven-Crushing Alliance, and naturally could send their people in. As long as they could come in, there would be a chance to make a move. Otherwise, he couldn't always hide in the Green River Valley, right? Then, once he went out, they would be able to target him and wait for a chance to make a move. You're really persistent. I didn't go to find you, but you came on your own. Ling Han smirked coldly. He had 1 to 3 chances of power boosts from the Black Tower, and did not mind using them on the Tan clan. The Tan clan joining the Heaven-Crushing Alliance did not cause too much of a commotion. They arranged for a black demon to come here to act as a teacher, and also sent over 3 clansmen, but none of them were as outstanding as Tan Mo, and were even inferior to Mo Li and Zhu Ba. In the Green River Valley, the young king tiers were discussing spiritedly why they were bringing in a new forbidden land. This is to compete with the forbidden lands of the immortal realm, someone said, seeming to know the truth. Someone said as if he knew the truth. Originally, the 8 deities and 8 underworlds were just balanced, no side having absolute authority. However, the old ancestors here clearly wanted to suppress the other side, so they absorbed a new restricted land. Furthermore, there were originally 8 forbidden lands in our netherworld, and it would be difficult to deal with major matters. What if it was 4 to 4, who would we listen to? Now it's 5 to 4, and one side will definitely have the upper hand. Don't just add another forbidden land. The power struggle involved in this is very deep. There were originally 2 voices in the alliance. One side requested to take in outstanding seedlings from the outside world, while the other objected, believing that the fertile water should not flow to outsiders. Furthermore, even if outsiders were to be married into the clan, it would affect the purity of the bloodline. Now, these 2 voices might clash. The ones who can make decisions are the ancestors. Let's just wait quietly. After this incident, Ouyang Taishan even made a special trip to find Ling Han, telling him to keep a low profile and focus on cultivation. It would be best if he did not leave the Green River Valley to avoid any trouble. It was obvious that he had also figured out the Tan clan's intentions. However, he did not have the final say in the Heaven-Crushing Alliance, so he could not expel the Tan clan. Ling Han fell into deep thought. Out of gratitude for Ouyang Taishan's help, Xiao Chen did not mind helping him fulfill his long-cherished wish in the future. Using his body as the core to accelerate the fusion of the 2 realms was a great merit, and it would also be very beneficial to Xiao Chen. However, if someone from the Heaven-Crushing Alliance wanted to target him, he wouldn't be happy. You're trying to kill me, and I'm still doing things for you like an idiot. I have to advance into the Genesis tier as soon as possible. At that time, even if I can't rival a Heaven Demon Saint King, the world is already big enough for me to do as I please, and I won't have to rely on the Black Tower every time. Ling Han made up his mind, and no longer paid any attention to the storms outside, cultivating diligently. However, the tree longed for peace, but the wind would not stop. He sat cross-legged in the stone chamber. Today would be the day when the next year's cultivation resources would be distributed. Though he had absolutely no use for it, it was a precious treasure for the heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden. She had already taken 1 step into the Eternal River tier. However, no one came no matter how long he waited. A day passed, and there was still no one delivering anything. Ling Han did not take it to heart. In any case, 1 more day wouldn't make much of a difference, but on the 2nd and 3rd day, he still did not see anyone delivering anything. He naturally felt that something was off, and ran out to ask. Instantly he was furious. His cultivation resources were blocked by that black demon from the Tan clan. Such a blatant action, and the other powerful figures actually did not care? Ling Han couldn't help but recall the rumors he had heard previously. There were 2 voices in the Heaven-Crushing Alliance. One was open, and the other was closed. Now, opening was the mainstream, and they had brought in talented people. However, the Tan clan had publicly blocked his cultivation resources, and even now, not a single powerful figure stood out to object. The meaning revealed in this was thought-provoking. The closed faction was about to gain the upper hand. Or in other words, the two sides were currently wrestling over this matter. Once the dust settled, there might be a sudden change in the heaven-crushing alliance. Ling Han was slightly confused. He was clearly the only candidate to merge the regulations of the two realms. Even if it was the closed faction, they should first comply with him. After all, entering the celestial realm was the most important prerequisite. That's right, some people want to obtain cultivation techniques from me. They think that my ability to merge the regulations of the two realms is not due to my talent, but because I have cultivated a powerful celestial technique. Then, as long as they snatch away my technique, they will naturally be able to merge the regulations of the two realms. Ho-ho, at present, there is still no unified voice among them, so I can sit here peacefully. So, it is only the despicable Tan clan that is doing evil, but if there is only one voice left, I might be in trouble. A wise man does not stand on a collapsing wall. I cannot place my own safety on the decisions of others. This is not a place to stay for long. Ling Han did not seek out that black demon from the Tan clan. Since he had embezzled his cultivation resources, arguing with him would only be seeking his own humiliation. In any case, he did not need them at all, and the heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden did not need them for the time being, so there was no rush. However, the Tan clan made a further provocative move. They actually splashed dog blood on the door of Ling Han's cave abode, and even wrote a great deal of insulting words, looking down on him to the point of utter contempt. Thankfully, Little Black did not come. Otherwise, your buttocks would have been bitten into 3 pieces, Ling Han mumbled to himself. Ling Han mumbled to himself. He still didn't respond, because he wanted to know what kind of attitude the heaven-crushing alliance had. If someone stood out and cried out for him, then he would still be willing to continue staying here. In future, when the two realms were merged, this would also be a great merit. He was waiting for the heaven-crushing alliance to express their stance. This would determine his next move. To Ling Han's disappointment, the juniors of the Tan clan continued to openly provoke him, but there was still no powerful figure that stood out and shouted for them to stop. Ling Han, do you dare fight? I will only use a single finger. A mere lowly commoner, an ant, actually dares to shamelessly enter the heaven-crushing alliance, Tui. The 3 members of the Tan clan would curse at Ling Han in front of his cave abode almost every day. This naturally fell into the eyes of the other young king tiers, but they all chose to sit back and watch. No one was an idiot. The powerful figures still did not appear. This was a kind of attitude. On this day, the 3 members of the Tan clan were still cursing outside, their words extremely offensive. It was unknown where they, king tiers, had learned these unbearable words from. Shwa, a figure flashed past, and there were crisp sounds of slapping. The 3 members of the Tan clan were all sent flying, one side of their faces swollen up. Ling Han stood with his hands behind his back. He was going to start a massacre. Reading on a cell phone was more refreshing. Chapter 1588. Since you've already killed him, what else is there to say? Take him down, said an unfamiliar mystical demon. He was from the Go family and belonged to the closed faction. Wait! A shout rang out, and Gu Feng actually stepped forward bravely. He stood in front of Ling Han, and looked as if he was going to confront the few black demons. Seniors, this matter needs to be discussed. Although Ling Han has indeed gone a little overboard, it is also these 3 who have gone too far. Everyone was surprised. They didn't expect that someone would stand up for Ling Han at this time. Is this guy a hothead? Several heavenly demons are fighting, and you actually dare to interfere. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Anyone can be a messenger of justice. Do you have the qualifications to preside over justice? We are law enforcers. Step aside, the Go clan's mystical devil said. He waved his sleeves, appearing rather displeased. However, Gu Feng was also a demon master. Even though Gu Feng was weaker than him by a level, he still had to give him some face. However, Gu Feng was very persistent and said, Ling Han must be punished, but his crime is not punishable by death. Seniors, please show mercy. Everyone was even more baffled. They didn't see him having any personal relationship with Ling Han. Why would he be so protective of him at this time? Could it be that there was some unspeakable relationship between them? Even Ling Han was a little confused. If Gu Feng had been replaced by the Rain Emperor, Feng Piyun, or even Empress Luan Xing or Hu Niu, then he would not have been surprised. This was brotherly loyalty and the affection between husband and wife. However, he only knew Oldwin's name. "Get out of the way, or I'll suppress you as well," the Go clan's mystic demon said coldly. He was originally of the conservative faction, and was filled with rejection towards those who were not from the Forbidden Lands. Since the other party did not want the face he had given them, then they should not blame him for being merciless. Did he think he wouldn't dare? Gu Feng had a conflicted expression on his face as he clenched his fists tightly. Just when everyone thought he was going to give up, he shook his head heavily and said, "I won't give way." "How dare you? What exactly are you after? You don't have a deep personal relationship with him, yet you're taking the risk of being suppressed. This is simply incomprehensible. Could it be that there was really such an idealistic person in the world who would not hesitate to strike a stone with a jade for the sake of righteousness? Then I'll capture you as well," the Go family's Xian Mo said coldly. "Ancient wind." Ling Han shouted from behind, using his divine sense to send a message. "Later, I will wrap you up with my divine sense. You must not resist." A strange look flashed across Gu Feng's eyes. There was even a hint of resistance, but he still nodded. Ling Han took a few steps forward, laughed loudly, and said, "Let's stop here for today. Help me pass on a message. Tell the old geezer of the Tan clan to come here personally. I will come out to see him. Otherwise, you guys can forget about finding me in this lifetime." "Where do you think you're going to hide?" The Go clan's mystical demon made a move, grabbing towards Ling Han. However, just as he raised his hand, he discovered that Ling Han had disappeared. It was as if he had turned into air, completely disappearing. Not only Ling Han, but Gu Feng had also disappeared. The demon masters were all stunned. Where was he? There's no fluctuation of space-tearing. He definitely didn't use the teleportation talisman to leave. Spatial God tool. The demon masters very quickly confirmed this. A few of them immediately smirked coldly. What a joke. Did he think that he could do nothing to him just because he hid in a spatial God tool? They were demon masters, and could forge spatial God tools themselves. Ignorant. They released their divine sense and began to search for this spatial God tool. However, their expressions became more and more grim, and it became more and more difficult. They couldn't find it. They couldn't find it anywhere. How was this possible? The demon masters exchanged a look, and could all see the shock in each other's eyes. Where was the spatial God tool? This is definitely not a spatial God tool. But what kind of treasure is there that can take in living things, and not show any traces? Hiss! They all inhaled sharply at the same time. Celestial tool. That was a celestial tool. Even celestial kings might not have one, and those that did would definitely be big shots among celestial kings. In the great turmoil of the past, there were celestial kings who fell, and there were even supreme celestial kings who stood on the 7th and 8th heavenly chasm. Then, it is possible that this boy has obtained a celestial tool. That's right. He can merge the regulations of the two realms, so he must have obtained a celestial king's treasure trove, cultivated a celestial king technique, and even possesses a celestial tool. We definitely have to find him. The eyes of the black demons all turned red. Even Yi Qingzhang and Jing Jing, who had originally sided with Ling Han, were restless. In front of a celestial king technique and a celestial tool, they could not control their greed. However, they also wanted to find the Black Tower alone. Delusional. After searching for a few days, they had no choice but to give up. They reported this news to their superiors, and asked for stronger figures to come forward. However, even if earth demons and heaven demons came, so what? They were only standing at the peak of divine Tao, so how could they possibly see the profound secrets of celestials? Ouyang Taishan also came. He flew into a rage and said, "So this is the reason why you guys lured me to the Moon Wolf planet. It is not because someone is trapped in the mystery realm, but because you guys want to make a move against Ling Han. Who is it that stands out for this old man? Who is it that thought of such a sinister trick? The heaven demons looked at each other, and one of them said, "Brother Taishan, there is no need for you to be too agitated. As the saying goes, the treasures of heaven and earth belong to those who are virtuous. That brat is only an ant, so what right does he have to possess the precious treasure of a celestial king?" Ouyang Taishan's gaze was extraordinarily cold. A galaxy appeared behind him, and there were innumerable densely packed stars, exuding magnificent colors. Meanwhile, his body was exuding a frightening aura, as if with a slight tremble, the whole mystery realm would collapse. This was definitely possible. Genesis Tears stood at the peak of divine Tao, and had absolute destructive power over this realm. "Do you people have virtue?" he asked in a disdainful tone, already angered to the limit. "Ho ho, it has already happened, so what is the point of saying all this?" A heaven demon stepped out to be the peacemaker. "The most important thing now is to have that brat come out. After all, the matter of entering into the celestial realms still falls on him." Ouyang Taishan was already speechless in anger. "You guys are treating people like this, and still have delusional thoughts of Ling Han helping them merge the two realms. To be fair, that brat is indeed unworthy of possessing the inheritance of a celestial king. This belongs to us, the remnant citizens of the celestial realm. However, since the treasure trove of a celestial king was obtained by that brat, we can allow him to also cultivate a celestial king technique, but he definitely has to hand over the celestial tool." Another heaven demon said. This was absurd to the extreme. It was clearly them who wanted to snatch what belonged to Ling Han, yet they pretended to be generous, and allowed Ling Han to cultivate a celestial king technique, as if they were doing him a great favor. Ouyang Taishan couldn't be bothered to speak. He had made up his mind. Once Ling Han appeared, he would bring him away. He was the one who had brought this person in here, so he naturally had to bring him out without a single hair missing. Meanwhile, the heaven demons exchanged a look and nodded. One of them moved his body imperceptibly. He had already locked onto Ouyang Taishan, and would not allow him to do anything that would interfere. They were all heaven demons, and furthermore, they had all cultivated to the pinnacle, so he still had this bit of confidence. "Go and invite old Geezer Tan here. Though that brat might only be speaking empty words, we can give it a try." Chapter 1589. Inside the Black Tower. Gu Feng's face was filled with shock. The vastness of this spatial god artifact made him speechless. He raised his head and saw two colors, one black and one white, interweaving in the sky. Those were the rules of the netherworld and immortal realms. Because they were opposing each other, the formless became tangible, and they were confronting each other through this method. He was even more shocked. This spatial artifact could actually accommodate the laws of two realms at the same time. It was too miraculous. "Come, let me show you around." There was a strange smile at the corners of Ling Han's lips as he led Gu Feng forward, introducing to him along the way. The medicinal herbs planted here were equivalent to 1,000 years in 1 year, and every once in a while, they could even produce the source power of the 5 elements. Gu Feng was completely speechless as he followed Ling Han like a dead fish. Anyone would be so shocked that their scalp would go numb if they suddenly found out about this. Finally, Ling Han led Gu Feng to the reincarnation tree. The Empress and the heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden were currently cultivating in seclusion under the tree. Now that the reincarnation tree had been upgraded, a single day was equivalent to 10 years of bitter cultivation. Moreover, the number of people that could be accommodated at the same time had also increased, reaching 20. Thus, the heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden finally didn't have to contend with the Empress' 9 doppelgangers. "This is the reincarnation tree," Ling Han introduced. "If you comprehend under this tree, 1 day is equivalent to 10 years. A muscle twitched in Gu Feng's cheek. "No wonder you're not even 500 years old, yet your cultivation level is already approaching the Genesis tier." Ling Han smiled. The reincarnation tree was only one of the reasons. Over the years, he had been constantly risking his life and entering various mystery realms in search of fateful encounters. This was the main reason why his cultivation had advanced so quickly. However, since Gu Feng insisted that everything was due to the reincarnation tree, so be it. Anyway, Ling Han, you trust me so much that you've even brought me into this supreme treasure. Gu Feng smiled, feeling incomparably carefree. This was definitely from the bottom of his heart. Someone who stood up for me in that kind of situation, why can't I trust him? Moreover, before Ling Han could finish his sentence, Gu Feng suddenly attacked and punched him in the back. Bang 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 bang. Old Wind was unforgiving as he continued to bombard Ling Han. His fists were wrapped in a dazzling radiance as he continuously bombarded Ling Han. He was a demon master, and whether it was in terms of power or regulations, he was far superior to Ling Han. Unless Ling Han channeled the indestructible Heaven Scroll, he would only be able to withstand 10 strikes at most, and he would definitely be killed. His cultivation had improved again, so he could naturally withstand more attacks from the Demon Lord. Ling Han stood there proudly. He did not dodge, nor did he parry. He just let Gu Feng hit him. After a series of 100 strikes, Gu Feng couldn't help but pale in shock. This was a fuck you freak. What eternal river tier could endure so many attacks from Genesis tiers? More importantly, he had not discovered that Ling Han had made any move to circulate his origin power. At this moment, Ling Han slowly turned around. Gu Feng was greatly alarmed. He retreated 100 zhang and was on full alert. Ling Han shook his head with a smile and said, "You are too impatient. Why don't you wait for me to finish before you make your move?" "Oh right, where were we just now? Furthermore, in this place, I am the supreme ruler. If anyone has ill intentions, I can easily kill them." Small Tower appearing very dissatisfied. Ling Han sighed and said, "Can't you let me pretend for a while? Why must you come out and ruin my mood?" All right. You are the supreme ruler of the Black Tower, and I can only control the Black Tower through you." Yet Gu Feng paled in shock. Tool spirit. This celestial tool actually has a tool spirit. Impossible. Since it has a tool spirit, how could it possibly recognize an ant like you as its master? This was a celestial tool. It was high and mighty, and could even kill a low-level celestial king, yet it actually recognized an eternal river tier as its master? How could he believe that? "You are quite a busybody," Small Tower said coldly, its expression proud. Gu Feng took a deep breath and said, "Tool spirit, recognize me as your master. I am 100 times, 1,000 times more outstanding than he is, and will definitely be able to help you regain your former glory. Let's join forces and create a great cause in the celestial realm." "Idiot." Small Tower swayed lightly. "I can't be bothered, I'm leaving." It swayed lightly and instantly disappeared. Gu Feng was extremely anxious. He wanted to give chase, but he did not know where to go at all. Ling Han broke into a grin. "It's time to show your true colors, right?" At this moment, the Empress and the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden also stopped their cultivation and stood beside Ling Han, staring coldly at Gu Feng. "What do you mean by true colors?" Gu Feng calmed down. Ling Han was unhurried. In any case, he had a lot of time and said, "You and I can practically be said to be complete strangers, yet you would actually step forward so bravely. I believe that there are such people in this world, but I do not believe that it would be you." "But?" Gu Feng asked darkly. "Because when we first met, the look in our eyes was not right," Ling Han said. "Just because of that?" "That is naturally only one reason," Ling Han said. "So, I drew you into the Black Tower. If you are really a good person, then being able to go to such an extent for a stranger, there is no harm in me letting you know the secrets of the Black Tower, and I can even let you enjoy the benefits of the Black Tower. If you are really as I have guessed, don't forget, in this place, I am the ruler." Heh. Small Tower's cough was heard. This Tsundra Tower was really too petty. Gu Feng did not speak. He turned his gaze towards the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and Empress Luan Xing, an ominous glint flickering in his eyes. "Don't delude yourself into thinking of taking them hostage, because you are completely unable to do so." Ling Han shook his head. "Actually, it is not difficult to guess your identity." "Tell me," Gu Feng said darkly. "Gu Yu is who, Mu Feng is Feng." Ling Han smiled and said, Hu Feng, to think that you actually chased all the way into the netherworld and even found me, changed your appearance, and entered into the Green River Valley? Gu Feng's figure trembled, and he did not make a sound. Light flickered slightly on his body, and his appearance immediately underwent a huge change. His originally dark skin became as white as a sheet, and he had an elegant and otherworldly bearing. Hu Feng, the most prodigy of the 8 stones forbidden land. Ling Han clapped his hands and said, I cannot help but admire you for grasping the regulations of the netherworld so quickly and even rising to the level of a demon master. Hu Feng humphed. When he first entered the netherworld, he was continuously hunted down by the people of the netherworld, and the regulations of the immortal realm that he had grasped were continuously being worn away by this heaven and earth. Thus, he simply began to cultivate the great Tao of the netherworld. He stood at the height of a saint in the first place, and recultivating the great Tao of the netherworld was naturally twice the result with half the effort. In a mere few years, his abilities had returned to the Genesis tier, and he had become a demon master, but he had also perfectly fused with the netherworld. For the treasures on Ling Han, he changed his appearance, and used his natural talent to attract the attention of the Heaven-Crushing Alliance, and was absorbed into the Green River Valley. At first, he had wanted to find a chance to assassinate Ling Han and loot all the treasures on him, but he had never imagined that Ling Han was actually so good at stirring up trouble. You're a fuck you jinx, stirring up trouble everywhere, and causing him to have no choice but to take a gamble, stepping out bravely at the most crucial moment, and speaking up for Ling Han. He knew that Ling Han had a celestial tool on him that could hide without form. At least, even he, a saint, could not find a trace of it. If Ling Han was heartless and did not take him away, then he would reveal his identity. The Hu clan was also a member of the Heaven-Crushing Alliance. At worst, he would only suffer a scolding, and there would not be any danger to his life. Reading on a cell phone was more refreshing. Chapter 1590. There was only one reason why Hu Feng would take such a risk. He wanted to monopolize the Celestial King technique and Celestial tool. Otherwise, would the 9 forbidden lands of the netherworld share them with the alliance of the immortal realm? What a joke! Since cultivating a Celestial King technique meant merging the regulations of the 2 realms, and entering the Celestial realm, would there still be a need for the Heaven-Crushing Alliance? What business did the immortal realm have? Pushing the 2 realms to merge had nothing to do with him. He only needed to be able to enter the Celestial realm. Xiu Hu Feng's figures suddenly shot out. His target was the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and the Empress. Previously, he had already tried. Ling Han was protected by the Tool Spirit and could not be injured at all. Only by taking these 2 women as hostages could he possibly turn defeat into victory. I've already said that you are just a piece of meat here and can only be slaughtered by me. What are you doing? Ling Han very casually delivered a slap. Hu Feng was instantly sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Hu Feng spat out a mouthful of blood, his expression filled with shock. He was actually not a match for Ling Han. A saint was actually not a match for an eternal river tier. How could he believe this? Don't think too highly of yourself. Below the Celestial King tier, anyone who enters the Black Tower will only be trampled on by me, Ling Han said calmly. Master is wise, Master is domineering, Master unites the world, eternal. The Azura Demon Emperor appeared just in time. At this time, he naturally had to flatter like crazy. He was really in great admiration. A demon master had come this time, and was still suppressed by his master. He was too strong. Hu Feng struggled to his feet. Ling Han did not deal a killing blow, or he would be done for with a single strike. He was jealous and unconvinced. Ling Han could be so strong only because he had obtained a celestial tool? It wasn't his own strength, and he had just gotten lucky. No, this is mine. I, Hu Feng, have nature-defying talent, and will definitely become a hero in the celestial realm in future. Tool Spirit, do you hear that? Follow me, and I can help you regain your glory. Hu Feng called out to the skies. He already knew that he was indeed inferior to Ling Han here, so the only possibility to turn the tables was to have the Tool Spirit change sides. Small Tower appeared and said to Ling Han, His words are somewhat reasonable. Brat, quickly and humbly ask me to stay. Ling Han chuckled. He knew that this Tsundra Tower was only joking. However, Hu Feng seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw. Artifact spirit, I promise you that as long as you follow me, I can be on equal footing with you. I will never order you around. Small Tower sneered softly, speaking as if Ling Han could command it now. It was proud and arrogant and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Hu Feng. It was just teasing Ling Han out of habit. Ling Han clapped his hands and said, Hu Feng, don't struggle anymore. Accept your fate. What's so great about relying on an immortal artifact? Do you dare to compete against me with your own strength? Hu Feng provoked. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have the slightest chance. You're at the Genesis tier, yet you actually dare to challenge my husband? You're truly shameless. The heavenly phoenix maiden chided. Hu Feng acted as if he didn't hear it. In order to survive, and more so to turn defeat into victory, so what if he was a little shameless? History was written by the victors. Ling Han shook his head and said, I'm not so senseless. Hu Feng, when you chased after me, why didn't you suppress your cultivation level to battle me? Hee in your eyes, I'm only an ant, and you won't even spare me a glance. Then it's the same now. In my eyes, you're less than even an ant. Talking so much nonsense with you is already very kind of you. This can also be considered a reward for chasing you into the netherworld to die. Now you can go on your way. Hu Feng roared. He was unwilling. He burned his life force, planning to fight with his life on the line. A Genesis tier burning his life force to fight with his life on the line. How terrifying was that? The current Hu Feng could probably even put up a fight against a black demon. In the Black Tower, the regulations of the two realms were complete, and Hu Feng could completely unleash the might of a saint, which was actually stronger than when he was outside. Unfortunately, the problem was that in the Black Tower, Ling Han was stronger. He pointed out with a finger. Endless power crushed down, and Hu Feng was instantly sent sprawling onto the ground. His limbs were spread out, and he didn't have the slightest bit of power to resist. In the Black Tower, how strong could Ling Han be? Beneath Celestial King tier, he could crush all living beings. A breath from his severing mundane ancestor could kill Saint Kings and Heaven Demons a few hundred times, what more when it was the power of Celestial King tier? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Hu Feng's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He didn't beg for mercy. Previously, when he chased after Ling Han, he had also been merciless. If Ling Han was still soft-hearted towards him, then he definitely had something wrong with his head. He was filled with hatred. Why had he walked right into the trap? Why hadn't he killed Ling Han earlier? You've only left first. Not long later, I will return to the immortal realm and raise the 8 stones forbidden land to the ground. Ling Han humphed and pressed down lightly with his hand. Hu Feng was instantly turned into dust, and not even a single drop of blood was left behind. With another wave of his hand, he flipped through Hu Feng's memories and put away a spatial spirit tool. Hu Feng was indeed able to create spatial spirit tools, but their capacity was limited. Thus, even Genesis tiers would mainly carry spatial spirit tools with them. There was no other reason than that they had a large capacity. After flipping through Hu Feng's memories, Ling Han came to a sudden realization. No wonder Hu Feng could catch up to him. So it was because of the existence of a line of karma. Now that he had killed Hu Feng, he had also formed a line of karma with the Hu clan, which would require 1 to 3 heavenly tribulations to sever. However, when it came to the core secrets, such as the Hu clan's celestial technique, Hu Feng's memories were sealed and would be destroyed upon touch. There was no way to flip through them at all. It's fine. At least I know where the 8 stones forbidden land is, and I can charge over there in future, Ling Han mumbled. Now, I just have to wait for the old guy from the Tan clan to come, and I'll do something big. Ling Han paused and said, Small Tower, if I split the power boost into 3 parts, what level can my battle prowess reach? Can I defeat all Heaven Demons and Saint Kings? Small Tower appeared. It can only let you reach the peak stage of the Genesis tier. However, in terms of the height of regulations, you can suppress any peak stage heaven demon or Saint King, because they have only grasped a portion of the regulations of the Genesis tier. That also means that if it's one-on-one, I can defeat them? Ling Han asked. Then what about 1 against 100 or even more? Then you can only run, Small Tower said unceremoniously. Even if they have only grasped a portion of the regulations, heaven demons and Saint Kings will not be much weaker than you. At most, you can fight to a draw with 10, and more than 10, you will definitely die in a drawn-out battle. Ling Han rolled his eyes. Your 3 power boosts are so deceptive. Do you want it or not? Small Tower said proudly. Ling Han sighed and calculated in his mind. If there was a limit to the number of peak stage heaven demons that he needed to kill, then he would choose to use 3 power boosts. If 20 or 30 peak stage heaven demons came, then he would use his 1 power boost and go on a killing spree. However, the number of peak stage heaven demons was definitely limited, and the 9 great forbidden lands could not take out many of them. Furthermore, it was impossible that all the peak stage heaven demons would come. Thus, he could choose to use a small power boost. Chapter 1592. But who asked Ling Han to hold their lifeline in his hands? The heaven demons whispered to each other for a while, and finally invited the Grand Elder of the Tan clan into the distance. This infuriated the Grand Elder of the Tan clan. He was a mighty peak stage heaven demon, and stood at the highest peak of the netherworld, yet because of the request of a mere eternal river tier, he was chased away. Shit. Young friend. The Sky Fiend of the Go family spoke. Oh, I remember now. Ling Han suddenly interrupting this person's words. That's the old ghost of the Tan clan, right? I actually forgot, and specially asked him to come here. Yes. Go and call him back. All the sky demons had the urge to vomit blood. Are you fucking kidding me? Even if these people were extremely deep and had astonishing self-restraint, they couldn't help but have ugly expressions at this moment. If you don't want to, then I'm leaving. Ling Han deliberately turned around. Although he could enter the Black Tower with a single thought, he still had to make a gesture. Don't. The heavenly demons cried out at the same time. Right, the Grand Elder of the Tan clan was once again invited back, but though he had managed to return, his expression was already livid. He was not a dog. Who wouldn't have a temper if he was being bossed around like this? Ling Han looked at the Grand Elder of the Tan clan, and smilingly said, Old geezer, are you in a bad mood? You're already so old, don't be angry all the time. What if you have a heart attack and end up going to see the ancestors? The Grand Elder of the Tan clan simply closed his eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. When the surrounding people arrived, they couldn't help but admire Ling Han. Had you ever seen an eternal river tier dare speak to a heaven demon in such a manner? Furthermore, he would be completely fine after flirting with him, causing the Grand Elder of the Tan clan to swallow his anger. Little friend, don't change the topic. The Sky Fiend from the Go family continued. We are also very sincere now. You can continue, right? You guys really don't have any entertainment spirit at all. Ling Han sighed. A bunch of old antiques, always with a straight face. Don't you know how to smile? I thought your faces were made of stone. He paused and said, All right, let's talk about my compensation first. What about your compensation? What did you lose? Go family's Sky Fiend said, Little friend, you don't seem to have suffered any losses, right? Why not? Ling Han's face was full of anger. Old man, your eyesight is too poor. Why didn't you see? I was harassed by those 3 bastards in every possible way, and my spirit was greatly damaged. I haven't been able to sleep well recently. Isn't that a loss? Firstly, it would be fine if he didn't sleep, and secondly, could he possibly be angered to such an extent because of this kind of matter? Everyone was speechless. At first, the Grand Elder of the Tan clan had only planned to be a guest, but when he heard Ling Han's words, he exploded in fury. You want mental damage? Then how are you going to settle this debt of 3 clansmen of my Tan clan who have died? The heavenly demon of the Go clan was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. When had he ever been called an old man in front of him? He took a deep breath and suppressed his emotions before saying, "All right, this old man can make the decision. I guarantee that you will be satisfied." Ling Han waved his hand and said, "Actually, I'm not a greedy person. As for compensation, I don't need to worry about it. A dozen or so stalks of saintly medicine is enough." "You really aren't greedy, only asking for a dozen or so stalks of saintly medicine." The heavenly demon of the Go clan didn't know what to say. He opened his mouth, yet didn't say a single word. This was an exorbitant demand, so exorbitant that he didn't even know how to bargain. "That's impossible," the heavenly demon of the Zhang clan said resolutely. "What a joke, a dozen or so stalks of saintly medicine. What did you think saintly medicine was? Even in a forbidden land like theirs, there were only 1 or 2 stalks of saintly medicine planted, and they could only harvest them once every tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of years. Saintly medicine was naturally given to those who needed it the most to break through, or to heal wounds of great Tao. After so many years, they were naturally mostly used up, and it was already very good if there were 1 or 2 portions of saintly medicine left in every forbidden land." Ling Han chuckled and said, "I've already said, I'm not a greedy person, so let's set this saintly medicine aside for now. The Tan clan has gone too far in bullying others, and I demand that the Grand Elder of the Tan clan apologize to me." Gasp. Hearing these words, everyone was startled. "Brat, you're awesome." The Grand Elder of the Tan clan was a peak stage heaven demon, a top-notch existence in the whole of the netherworld, fully deserving of being a big shot, and you actually wanted him to apologize to you? No, putting aside a mere eternal river tier like you, even if the other 8 great forbidden lands combined their pressure, the Grand Elder of the Tan clan might not lower his head. How was he supposed to face others in future? Not a single heaven demon spoke. This involved the Grand Elder of the Tan clan, and no one had the right to speak. How could they possibly force the Grand Elder of the Tan clan to apologize? The Grand Elder of the Tan clan naturally couldn't pretend to be deaf and mute anymore. He glanced at the big shots, forcefully suppressing the fury in his heart, and said, "Young man, I can promise you that as long as you hand over the Celestial King technique, the debt between you and the Tan clan will be written off." When he said these words, his expression looked very sinister. He very much wanted to kill Ling Han, but there was no other way. Presently, Ling Han held the initiative, and if he did not take a step back at this time, he would be targeted by the combined forces of the 8 great forbidden lands. For the sake of the Celestial King technique, he endured. Ling Han suddenly stood up, his expression filled with fury. "Old man, you are too unreasonable. It was clearly your clansmen who harassed me and affected me, and I am the victim. If you want to write off the debt, it should be me who does it. What do you mean by that?" The Grand Elder of the Tan clan flew into a sudden rage and said, "Brat, I have already tolerated you for a very long time. You are completely being unreasonable." Ling Han was startled and then smiled. "Your intelligence, Sai, how do you want me to put it? Only now did you realize that I was fooling you all. You really are extraordinarily stupid." Tang, all the big shots were angered. When had they ever been fooled by someone before? Furthermore, they had been fooled together. Ling Han laughed loudly and said, "Don't scare me, I'll run if you scare me." He paused and then continued, "Old geezer of the Tan clan, do you dare to fight me one-on-one?" One-on-one? This time, everyone was dumbfounded again. A mere eternal river tier actually said he wanted to fight a demon master one-on-one? Furthermore, this was not an ordinary demon master, but a peak stage heaven demon, a big shot that stood at the peak of the netherworld. Are you seeking death? This brat had just been sympathizing with the intelligence of others, and in the blink of an eye, his own intelligence had also become negative. Yet the Grand Elder of the Tan clan laughed out of extreme fury. What was wrong with this world? Even a mere eternal river tier dared challenge him. He humphed and said, "What right do you have to fight with me? Is this reason enough?" Ling Han asked with a smile. "Defeat me, and I will gift the Celestial King technique to you." So simple? How could an eternal river tier possibly be a match for a peak stage heaven demon? This was really, as he had said, gifting the Celestial King technique. The Grand Elder of the Tan clan hesitated slightly, but immediately nodded. As long as Ling Han did not hide in that celestial tool, he would be able to capture Ling Han. Then, whether the latter handed over the Celestial King technique or not, it would not be up to him to decide. All right, he agreed. Chapter 1593. None of the big shots spoke up to stop this. None of them would fear Ling Han, they just didn't want him to hide in that celestial tool. Now, since Ling Han wanted to start a battle, that was equivalent to giving them a chance to easily take him down. Ouyang Taishan frowned slightly, but since it was Ling Han who suggested it, he naturally had his own reasons, so he didn't stop him. If the mystery realm opened, if the Grand Elder of the Tan family got serious, the restrictions here wouldn't be able to withstand it at all. Thus, this was naturally a battle in the galaxy. This was a void far away from the sun, so it was pitch black and filled with deathly stillness. Amidst this deathly stillness, Ling Han and the Grand Elder of the Tan family stood facing each other, about 10 miles apart. "Brat, are you sure you won't hide?" the Grand Elder of the Tan family asked calmly. He was using words to keep Ling Han at bay. If the latter suddenly hid in the celestial tool again, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Ling Han smiled calmly. "It's just an old dog, and I can kill it with a flip of my hand. What's with all this nonsense?" "What a brat." The Grand Elder of the Tan family raised his white brows, revealing a dense killing intent. He suddenly moved. Wang, a giant palm of flames grabbed towards Ling Han. Countless seal patterns danced on the flames. This was the evolution of the strongest regulations of the netherworld. "Small tower," Ling Han said softly in his mind. Wang, endless power instantly burst forth from his body, and his aura instantly skyrocketed by hundreds of millions, trillions of times. In this instant, he felt that he was omnipotent. He could split open the sky with a palm, and he could destroy all living beings with a single thought. The giant hand grabbed over, and Ling Han punched out to meet it. The demon masters were all shocked. Ling Han really dared to fight with the Grand Elder of the Tan family. This was definitely like throwing an egg against a rock. I seem to have a feeling that the brat's strength has skyrocketed countless times. That's right, he seems to be able to stand against me. Unbelievable. Under their shocked gazes, Ling Han punched out, and the palm of the Grand Elder of the Tan family was instantly shattered into pieces. This, even though the Sky Fiends had expected this, they still couldn't believe their eyes when they saw this scene. Did this brat eat an immortal pill? How could he become countless times stronger all of a sudden? It must be an immortal king's secret technique. The eyes of the Grand Elder of the Tan clan widened slightly. This result had also greatly exceeded his expectations. He snorted and said, "No wonder you have the guts to make an enemy of me. So it turns out that you have the support of a celestial king's secret technique." He couldn't help but feel incredibly envious. This kind of secret technique could allow Ling Han to directly leap from the high extreme of the Eternal River tier to the peak stage of the Heaven Demon tier. If he possessed it, just how powerful would he become? Could he directly tear open space and enter the immortal region? When he thought of this, his greed got out of hand. What a powerful force! Ling Han exercised his fists and legs. He was somewhat infatuated with this feeling of power. Unfortunately, it did not belong to him now. However, he believed that in the near future he would possess such strength. "Old geezer, I'll send you on your way." He faced the Grand Elder with his bare fists, but his present strength was too powerful. He was the only person in the netherworld that had grasped the regulations of two realms at the same time. This kind of strength would be able to crush any demon master or Saint King. In the galaxy, the two great elites battled fiercely, but there was no suspense. The Grand Elder of the Tan clan was being suppressed and was completely at a disadvantage. This brat is actually strong to this extent. Inconceivable. Though old Geezer Tan's strength is not the strongest among the peak stage demon masters, it is enough to rank in the top 10 or so. To be able to suppress old Geezer Tan like this, I'm afraid that only the 2 or 3 people with the strongest battle prowess would be able to do so. However, this kind of ability definitely cannot be possessed forever. Otherwise, the level would lose the meaning of existence. When this brat's power is exhausted, we'll launch a surprise attack and take him down in one fell swoop. The big shots were all communicating through divine sense. Aside from Ouyang Taishan and a few others, the rest were all eyeing Ling Han covetously. It couldn't be helped. Who wouldn't be tempted by a celestial king technique? Even Ouyang Taishan was tempted, though he was more principled. Not good, old geezer Tan is about to be unable to hold on. Attack together. After another few hundred moves, the Grand Elder of the Tan clan was already in danger, and could be severely wounded at any moment. This caused the big shots to be unable to sit still any longer. They all moved, intending to suppress Ling Han. Humph, you all are really too shameless. Ouyang Taishan also moved, but he was not attacking Ling Han. Instead, he was calling out to his former ally. Ling Han, don't show off your momentary bravery. Leave quickly. He could guess that Ling Han's strength was definitely only temporary. Otherwise, the level of martial art would lose all meaning. But the two big shots that had been with Ouyang Taishan previously did not move. They chose to watch from the sidelines. As far as they were concerned, not making a move was already giving Ouyang Taishan a lot of face. Ling Han's eyes swept over them and took in the expressions of everyone. This would decide how he would deal with these people in future. Old geezers, are you all tired of living? He asked menacingly. Brat, there is no way you can escape alive. Hand over the Celestial King technique, and we can spare your life. The Heaven Demon of the Yi clan shouted loudly, but his punch had already arrived, showing no mercy. There was no need to keep him alive. Extracting his soul would suffice. Furthermore, only by extracting his soul could he be completely trusted. When it came to a Celestial King technique, who could believe Ling Han's words? If there was a single wrong word in the technique, then the result of cultivating it could possibly be going mad and being burned to ashes by the great Tao. Since that is the case, then I will send you all on your way. Ling Han gave a battle cry. This time, he did not hold back anymore. That's right, he had not used his full power just now. Otherwise, how could the Grand Elder of the Tan clan possibly have withstood so many moves? He wanted to wait until everyone had made their choice, and only then did he deliberately delay. Now, he was going to start a massacre. His hand shook. The broken wooden sword in his left hand, and the divine demon sword in his right, and he charged towards the heaven demons. Shwa shwa shwa, sword chi surged. Wang, the two divine swords were completely activated. Multiple seals appeared, exuding light, and drawing upon the great Tao, their might indescribable. Just at this moment, the broken wooden sword was even stronger. This was a level 20 demonic tool, and with Ling Han's present strength, he could completely unleash its might. Conversely, the divine demon sword was only level 17 at present, so its might was much weaker. However, if the divine demon sword struck a vital point, putting aside heaven demons, even severing mundane ancestors would die. This was a future celestial tool, and its destructive power was definitely top-notch. Ling Han was like a fierce tiger charging into a flock of sheep. As the two divine swords danced, there was no one that could face them head-on, and they all fled in all directions. Darkness of the paramount night, Ling Han used a celestial technique. Hong, endless darkness spread out and enveloped all the demon masters inside. As Ling Han's cultivation level rose explosively, the might of the darkness of the paramount night naturally rose as well, and could have an extremely strong effect on even heaven demons. Using the lightning sword technique, Ling Han did not need to care who his opponent was at all. There was only one word for him: kill. Chapter 1594. The darkness enveloped them, and even the heaven demons felt greatly affected. They couldn't see, hear, or sense the situation beyond 30 meters. This was inconceivable. At their level, as long as they waved their divine sense, even the entire celestial body could be included in their perception. Now that they were suddenly limited to a range of 30 meters, they naturally couldn't get used to it. It couldn't be helped. So what if they were peak stage heaven demons? They only grasped the regulations of the netherworld, so how could they compare to the current Ling Han? This was a suppression in terms of the height of regulations. Ling Han's two swords twirled, and he was like a thousand-armed guardian deity. Sword chi danced and blood splattered. He was too strong, and his individual battle prowess could even crush peak-stage heaven demons. At least 10 of the strongest big shots had to join forces to block him, but now that they were enveloped by darkness, it was easier said than done to join forces. This created a huge opportunity for Ling Han, allowing him to attack to his heart's content. Pew, 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 pew. One after another, heads flew. They were all the strongest beings of the present world. There were earth demons and black demons, but yellow demons didn't qualify to participate at all, so they dodged a calamity. And whether they were beheaded by the divine demon sword or by the broken wooden sword, it was a fatal blow. It was guaranteed that even their spirit couldn't escape and would be destroyed. A bunch of deceivers, Ling Han said coldly. The divine demon sword in his right hand slashed out, and another earth demon was beheaded. Blood splattered over. He didn't dodge, and bathed in divine blood caused his killing intent to burn even more fiercely. I promised you out of goodwill to merge the two realms and give you a chance to become celestial. This is your repayment. Do you think I'm a clay figurine that you can knead as you please? This is your choice, so now suffer the consequences of your actions. Pooh, pew, pew, another few heads flew. Retreat, a heaven demon shouted. All below heaven demons, retreat, you are only seeking death. All the heaven demons felt heartache. These earth demons and black demons were the backbone of their clans, future grand elders. And if they could open the doors to the celestial realm, then these people had a chance to become severing mundane ancestors. Seeing them being slaughtered one by one like vegetables and melons, they were both furious and helpless. In this darkness, their reactions were countless times slower, and they could only neutralize the attacks aimed at them. How could they have the time to help others? The other demon masters hurriedly fled, but how much weaker were they now compared to Ling Han? They were clearly running in one direction, but they couldn't run out of the darkness no matter how hard they tried. Here, their 5 senses had almost lost their meaning. They couldn't be sure that they were really running in a straight line. The Sky Fiends were also helpless. Right now, Ling Han's strength was above theirs, so they were unable to dispel the darkness around them. They could only fight passively. Moreover, Ling Han was extremely abominable. He targeted the Earth Demon and the Black Demon. Naturally, he killed one with each strike. His killing efficiency was astonishing. In less than an hour, all the Earth Demons and Black Demons had died. The heavens and the earth mourned, and a rain of blood poured down without end. Ling Han, on the other hand, was bathed in divine blood, and his entire body was filled with killing intent. At this moment, he could already completely control the broken wooden sword, causing this demonic weapon to seem to have transformed into a black demonic dragon, emitting endless demonic aura. One man with 2 swords, indomitable. Even the sky demons were at a loss for words. They felt that they had really poked a hole in the ground, actually going up against such a monster. If they had known that this would happen, they would have worked together. Once the 2 realms merged, everyone would have a chance of becoming an immortal. Now, not to mention becoming an immortal, even surviving was a problem. Now that things have come to this, there's no turning back. The Zhang family's Sky Fiend said coldly, "Use your ultimate moves. If we can't kill this brat today, there will be endless troubles in the future." All the Sky Fiends nodded in awe. Even if Ling Han's celestial technique could only be used once, he had a celestial artifact, which meant that he was invincible. Moreover, wouldn't his cultivation level increase? As long as Ling Han also advanced into the Genesis tier, his battle prowess would naturally be stronger than other demon masters and saints, who asked him to merge the regulations of the 2 realms. This kind of enemy was definitely a great calamity. Boom, 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 one after another, the heavenly demons began to burn their source energy without caring about the price. Of course, it was only a tiny bit. It was a limited increase in their battle prowess. After all, they still had the advantage of numbers. With so many heavenly demons, this was the strongest force in the netherworld. Ling Han had been avoiding them all this time. Clearly, he did not have the confidence to defeat them. Now that they were burning their source energy to increase their battle strength, it was enough to suppress them. Boom! These heavenly demons repeatedly blew, and the darkness was forcibly driven away, returning the place to its original state. The celestial demons were surrounded by the rules of the great Tao. Countless stars revolved around them, forming Dharma idols that were billions of meters long. He was going all out. Ling Han sneered, "It's time to send you on your way. Dream on." The celestial demons all laughed coldly, and they all attacked Ling Han. Their rage, coupled with the fact that they were burning their battle prowess to the limit, their current might was just too terrifying. A single palm strike could shatter a star. The strongest power of the underworld. Ling Han smiled slightly. "Do you think this is my strongest combat ability?" He opened his mouth and spat out a stream of flames. 9 Heavens Flame, one of the 9 great ancestral flames of the immortal region. What? The celestial demons all paled in shock. Even their Dharma idols were trembling. They only felt that this ball of flames was too terrifying. They only needed to come into contact with a sliver of it, and they would be burned to ashes. There was definitely no other possibility. What kind of fire was this? How could it be so terrifying? Ling Han activated the 9 Heavens Flame. This was an immortal flame, though it had not truly matured. Otherwise, it was an existence on par with Celestial King Tier. Below Celestial King Tier, who would not die upon coming into contact with it. Now, Ling Han temporarily possessed the cultivation level of the consummate level of the Genesis Tier, and the might that the 9 Heavens Flame exploded with had also reached the peak of the Netherworld, and was even close to celestial level. This was Ling Han's true trump card. Ling Han flicked his finger, and multiple flames that were as thin as fingers flew out, blasting towards the celestial demons. The celestial demons hurriedly fled. These flames were not something that they could match at all. They were on a completely different level. "Let's go," the celestial demon from the Go clan said through gritted teeth. There was already no meaning in continuing to fight. Merely the might of these flames was something that they could not dispel. Furthermore, Ling Han still had a celestial tool and could disappear at any time. This was only putting them in danger for nothing. All the celestial demons shook their heads dejectedly. Just think about it, they were all top-notch beings of the whole netherworld, but now they were actually forced to become stray dogs by a mere eternal river tier. This was something that they could not accept. But if they did not flee, could it be that they would stay and die? "You still want to leave now?" Ling Han smirked coldly. With a thought, the 9 Heavens Flames spread out endlessly, turning into a massive cage that trapped all the celestial demons within. "Not a single one of you can think of escaping," he said menacingly. Chapter 1596. A day later, the Black Tower's power boost effect disappeared. Ling Han piloted the cloud-piercing shuttle and set off. He was going back to the God Realm. Before setting off, he chatted with Ouyang Taishan for a long time. This respectable old man imparted him many experiences, some of which were very, very practical. For example, why did some prodigies not break through after cultivating 2 million or even 3 million stars? Mo Li and Zhu Ba didn't have the ability to do so, but it wasn't that they didn't want to. But for the prodigies of the Forbidden Lands, those who could cultivate to the pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier would definitely be juniors with a pure bloodline, and they could definitely take this step with the help of their bloodline. The reason why he wanted to cultivate 2 million or even 3 million stars was because of a legend. If one could form 10 million heavenly bodies, and then break through to the Genesis tier, they would receive the recognition of heaven and earth, and receive a special reward. After advancing into the severing mundane tier, their strength would be unparalleled, and they would far surpass those at the same cultivation level. To these people from the immortal realm and the netherworld, there was another benefit to forming 10 million stars before making a breakthrough, and that was the ability to fuse the laws of the two realms. Of course, this was only a legend. There were also people who said that this was the true pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier. The reason why it was a legend was because no one had ever formed 10 million stars in the Eternal River tier. Even the prodigies of the Forbidden Lands could not achieve this. Perhaps there were supreme geniuses in the celestial realm who could do this, but there was definitely no one in the divine underworld. According to Ouyang Taishan, he hoped that Ling Han could endure it for a while and not break through to the Genesis tier so quickly. Instead, he should try his best to break through to this legendary pinnacle level. Ling Han would definitely be able to enter the celestial realm. Hence, it was no longer enough for him to dominate the geniuses of both the netherworld and God realms. He needed to meet the standards of the celestial realm. Otherwise, if he went to the celestial realm, he would at most be called a genius, and would not be able to become the king of an era. This made Ling Han feel conflicted. Since he knew this, he would definitely attempt to break through to the pinnacle level of 10 million stars. But what about the Empress? At first, she would be able to break through to the pinnacle level of 1 million stars, and from then on, they would be lovey-dovey, doing some things that everyone looked forward to and liked. However, if he wanted to break through to 10 million stars, he would definitely have to push back the time he needed to break through to the Genesis tier. Sigh, for the sake of my wife's future, I'll just reject her. Ling Han sighed sorrowfully. No matter how late it is, she's still my wife. But once she misses the supreme boundary, it'll be a lifetime of regret. This was especially so for experts of the immortal realms who could remain undying for tens of thousands of years. The influence would be even greater. The Empress was a supreme divine fetus, and cultivated a celestial king technique, so it should be possible for her to reach the true pinnacle level of the eternal river tier. As for the heavenly phoenix divine maiden, there was basically no need to consider this problem. Ling Han spoke with the Empress, and both of them decided to break through to the true pinnacle level of the eternal river tier. Meanwhile, the heavenly phoenix divine maiden was determined. Her goal was to advance into the Genesis tier as soon as possible. Since both Ling Han and the Empress wanted to advance into the pinnacle level of the eternal river tier, perhaps she could catch up to them and become the first among them to advance into the Genesis tier. The cloud-piercing shuttle headed towards the sea space star. Since he was going to leave the netherworld, he had to go and greet the Hysteria Demon Master and the Overlord Sword Demon Master. They had stood up for him back then. Moreover, he wanted to return the way he came, and Sea Space Planet was on the way. Previously, it had been Ouyang Taishan who had brought him along, and their speed was too fast. If they traveled on the cloud-piercing shuttle, they would need about half a year's time. And this was still because the cloud-piercing shuttle had been modified by Hunyo. Otherwise, the time needed would be 100 times more. After setting the galactic coordinates, there was actually no need for anyone to control it. Thus, Ling Han and the others basically stayed in the Black Tower, taking alchemical pills and comprehending under the reincarnation tree, allowing their cultivation level to soar all the way. Every once in a while, Ling Han would still come out to check on the situation. Because there were galactic pirates, traveling in the galaxy was not a peaceful thing. About 4 months later, when Ling Han left the Black Tower, he couldn't help but be startled. In front of him, there was an indescribably massive flower. It was not only indescribably large, even its color was indescribable. At least, Ling Han did not know what color he should use to describe it. But it was obviously incredibly massive, yet it was as if it did not exist, which was incredibly strange. What divine flower is this? Ling Han searched in his mind, but among the basic medicinal ingredients of the immortal realm, there was not a single one that matched this. He began to make further deductions. Different medicinal ingredients could form new varieties through grafting, and as long as he grasped the basic knowledge of medicinal ingredients, he would be able to deduce everything. However, Ling Han was still unable to deduce which medicinal ingredients would grow into such a form after being grafted. This was not the difference between the immortal realm and the netherworld. In truth, the two were originally one, but because of the change in regulations, some godly medicines could no longer grow in the netherworld or the immortal realm. Hiss, could this be a celestial medicine? Ling Han's heart shook. Though this thought was a little absurd, it was not impossible, because hadn't he obtained a reincarnation tree? Small tower, come, do you know what kind of variety this is? Ling Han asked. Void flower, Small Tower immediately replied. This is a celestial flower, but it only grows in the cracks of space. Thus, it is not strange that it would appear in the netherworld. Ling Han couldn't help but become slightly excited. Celestial flower. You mean, if you convince one, you can immediately become a celestial? Small Tower couldn't help but be disdainful and said, in your dreams. There are many types of celestial medicines, but there is basically no one that can directly increase cultivation level. The so-called celestial flower is nurtured by some kind of supreme regulations in the celestial realm. Thus, after consuming it, one can use it to comprehend this kind of regulations and possibly grasp it. The void flower corresponds to the regulations of space. If you can grasp it, you can even control space in the celestial realm. This is a precious treasure even in the celestial realm. Perhaps even the celestial king would be interested. Ling Han's eyes shone. Then I definitely have to get it. Heh. Small Tower released a disapproving laugh and began to act proud again. The void flower contains the regulations of space. You can obtain it now, but who knows how far away it is. Perhaps when you are halfway there, the celestial flower will already be plucked by someone. Will you die if you don't attack me? Ling Han said in displeasure. He slightly adjusted the direction of the cloud-piercing shuttle. Small Tower still had a half-dead attitude. Xiao, the cloud-piercing shuttle changed direction and chased after the void flower. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 month, 2 months. Just as Small Tower had said, this void flower contained the regulations of space and could be obtained anywhere, but in reality, it was unknown how far away it was. Ling Han almost wanted to give up. Who knew how long he would have to chase after it? But he had already spent 2 months, so he was unwilling to give up at this time. Thus, he continued to chase after it. Another month later, the space suddenly became extremely strange. He was clearly advancing forward, but after a short while, he actually discovered that at some unknown time, he had actually turned around and was going back the way he had come. Ling Han was not shocked, but rather delighted. Since a strange change had occurred in the space, it meant that he was already truly close to the void flower. Chapter 1597. In this place, space distorted and overlapped, incredibly strange. If Ling Han took a step forward, he might take 3 steps back, or he might take a step back, but he would take 10 steps forward. In this place, eyes and divine sense all lost their meaning, and there was a great degree of deception. Only by mastering the regulations of space can it be possible to find a shortcut, Small Tower said. As for you, you can only spend time to slowly probe. Moreover, even if you finally find out the rules, the void flower only needs to make a slight change, and you will have to start from the beginning again. In the celestial realm, celestial kings that have mastered the regulations of space and time are the most difficult to deal with. Small Tower suddenly became excited and took the initiative to speak. However, such celestial kings are only difficult to deal with. If you encounter a celestial king that cultivates the regulations of slaughter, then you might be even more unlucky. With a single thought, you would not even have a corpse left. In terms of battle prowess, celestial kings of slaughter can even battle above their tier. There was once a 4th heaven celestial king of slaughter that killed a 5th heaven celestial king. However, if one reached the 9th heaven, then there is no difference in cultivating any regulations. They will all stand at the peak of celestial Tao, and there is no difference in the strength of regulations, only the degree of one's own mastery. Ling Han faltered and said, "Did you take the wrong medicine today? How did you become a chatterbox? I can't be bothered with you." Small Tower humphed proudly and no longer paid any attention to Ling Han. Unfortunately, Hunyo was not here. This girl seemed to be born with a compass and never had to worry about getting lost. Ling Han let the Empress out. Firstly, the Empress was a divine fetus and perhaps had unimaginable abilities. Secondly, he was also bored, and hugging the Empress and being lovey-dovey was better than sitting alone. Furthermore, the Empress had 9 doppelgangers, and her main body coming out to accompany him would only waste 1/10 of the cultivation time. The void flower Empress was also very shocked. She vaguely knew some things about the celestial realm from the memories of her bloodline, and added with the fact that she had refined Gu Daoi's divine fetus, her understanding of the celestial realm was actually much higher than Ling Han's. Some regulations are especially difficult to cultivate, such as time, space, slaughter, and darkness. Because these regulations do not manifest in the world, you have no way to grasp them at all, and can only be obtained by consuming celestial medicine. Before reaching the 9th level of the Celestial King realm, space is definitely one of the most powerful laws. Ling Han nodded. Then we must obtain this void flower. The two of them joined hands and released their divine senses to sense the changes in the space, slowly moving forward. This was also because they were not strong enough. Otherwise, no matter how complicated the space here was, they could destroy it with a single punch and forcefully open up a new path. Unfortunately, they were not immortals, so how could they resist the spatial disturbance caused by the immortal flowers? Fortunately, the two of them were geniuses among geniuses. Together, they were able to greatly increase their speed. However, if it was as Small Tower had said, if the void flowers suddenly changed the regulations of space, then they would have to start from scratch again. A few days later, a golden path spread out, and a demon master arrived. This void flower was too conspicuous, and could be seen clearly even from several galaxies away. It would be abnormal if it did not attract a few demon masters. This was a man who only looked to be in his 50s, and his appearance was extremely mighty. He didn't even spare the cloud-piercing shuttle a second glance. If he wasn't at the Genesis tier, how could he possibly draw his attention? He, too, released his divine senses, wanting to find a path in this complicated space. Ling Han was unafraid of this demon master, not because he still had 2 chances of power boosting, but because the space here was too complicated. Even though they were only separated by a dozen or so miles, it was very possible that a demon master would have to circle around for a few years before he could reach them. The wonders of space made one exclaim in admiration. Ling Han couldn't help but be greatly interested. If he could grasp the regulations of space, when others attacked him, he could directly teleport them to another place, or even attack the other party. And if he made a move, he could instantly cross the distance of space, and it might even be possible to kill someone from a galaxy away. Unfortunately, the regulations of space were not something that could be directly grasped by observing heaven and earth, and had to be grasped through celestial medicine. Multiple golden paths spread out, and more demon masters arrived. Obviously, they were all interested in this immortal flower. Another month later, Ling Han suddenly discovered that a flower that was only a foot tall had appeared in front of him. It had the same appearance as that towering void flower, seeming to have color, yet also seeming to be colorless. It was clearly so illusory that it didn't exist, yet it was colorful, indescribably beautiful. The true form of the void flower. That infinitely large flower that illuminated the universe was only an illusory image that the void flower had refracted through the regulations of space. It was only a distance of a few miles, and the space around that immortal flower was collapsing, in an extremely unstable state that could turn into a black hole at any moment. The fact that the void flower could be seen meant that it had already grown to the extreme, and bloomed a brilliant flower. Next, it would wither. This kind of immortal flower would not bear seeds at all, and was directly nurtured by the regulations of heaven and earth. Even a supreme celestial king could forget about nurturing it. Not only Ling Han, those demon masters had also appeared in the vicinity, all of their eyes burning. Aside from Ling Han and the Empress, there should be no one else who knew the origins of the void flower, but they could all deduce that this flower was extraordinary, so they naturally had to do everything in their power to obtain it. "If you don't want to die, then get out of my way," a demon master said coldly. He used his divine sense to transmit his will, and appropriately displayed his cultivation level as a black demon. With this display of force, there were immediately 1/3 of them who turned around and left. A black demon was too strong, and could not be matched at all. After all, that was only a saintly medicine, and it was too unwise to start a battle with a black demon over it. This was naturally because they did not know that the void flower was a celestial medicine. Otherwise, they would definitely fight for it. "Humph, if I encounter the remaining people, don't blame me for being merciless," that black demon said coldly. That's the Desolate Cloud's demon master of Dulong Planet. He's a big shot even among the black demons. However, the space here overlaps, and so close is the end of the world. He might not be the first to obtain the saintly medicine. There were a great many demon masters who did not believe this. Though there were still a few yellow demons among them, there was not much of a difference in speed between demon masters. Thus, if they were the first to obtain the saintly medicine, they could completely turn around and leave. It was a fight for treasure, so it naturally depended on their own abilities. If whoever was the strongest would definitely be able to obtain it, then would there still be so many people entering to fight for the ancient sites and the like every time they opened? Ling Han was also calm and composed. For the sake of a celestial medicine, it was completely worth it to use a power boost from the Black Tower. How lucky. We've just come out, and we've actually encountered a void flower. A voice rang out, and there was another dazzling young man here. He was dressed in a white cloth robe, and it looked very simple, but as long as there were multiple patterns shining on the cloth robe, one could tell that this robe was a precious treasure. Chapter 1598. A young man acted as though there was no one else around, as though the immortal flower was already his. Ling Han was shocked. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. The void flower was an immortal seed. Those who knew its exact name should only be people from the immortal realms. There should be very few people in the Forbidden Grounds who knew about it. This type of immortal flower was simply too rare. After so many years, would there still be any information about it left behind in the Forbidden Grounds? This person came from the immortal region. This was a more likely guess, but this person was clearly only in the Genesis tier, yet could come from the celestial realm, which meant that he definitely had the support of a powerful force behind him. Otherwise, it was impossible that he could have come here. However, why did someone from the immortal region come here? Ling Han had once possessed the true power of the consummate level of the Genesis tier. Thus, he could clearly sense that this young man was not a demon master, nor was he a saint. Instead, he had both, and was a true Genesis tier elite. Many demon masters went towards that young man. This person was very arrogant and acted as if there was no one else around, but he was also very young. To be able to become a demon master at this age, he was extremely extraordinary. The young man glanced at the crowd without saying a word, but his eyes were filled with intense contempt. That sense of superiority even surpassed that of the people from the Forbidden Lands, so Ling Han was completely sure that he was definitely from the celestial realm. Haha. A bunch of trash dares to fight with me over the divine item? The young man shook his head and revealed a smile. My name is Han Chi. As for where I come from, you are not worthy of knowing. All you need to know is that I'm high and mighty, and you can only worship me. Scram immediately, or I'll kill you. He repeated the same words as the Desolate Cloud's demon master, but this time, the Desolate Cloud's demon master had also become the target of disdain, causing the mystic demon to snort coldly. However, they were separated by space. While the distance between them was only several dozen zhang, it was not impossible for them to be hundreds of millions of kilometers apart. Even if they attacked each other, they would not be able to injure each other. Just you wait. Everyone was saying the same thing in their minds. They naturally would not take such a young man seriously. They thought that even if he had advanced into the Genesis tier, he would at most be a yellow demon. They all advanced toward the void flower. Ling Han and Empress Luanxing also exited the cloud-piercing shuttle. Speed wasn't a problem here, so they didn't need the cloud-piercing shuttle anymore. Instead, it was because they were in a flying magic tool that affected the expansion of their divine sense. In the instant that the Empress appeared, the dark universe seemed to have become much brighter. Everyone could not help but be attracted by the Empress's unparalleled beauty and unparalleled charm. Han Chi couldn't help but take a few more glances. He retracted his gaze, but took a few more glances, and his face revealed a look of amazement. I have never seen such beauty in all my life. His heart palpitated with eagerness, and he also made a decision that such a beauty should belong to him. Not only did he obtain a stock of celestial medicine, he also obtained a peerless beauty. He originally thought that his family sending him into this primitive land to train would be a difficult task, but he never expected that he would encounter such a great fortune. The void immortal flower was incomparably precious even in the immortal realms. And such a beauty, it was likely that no one in the immortal realms could match up to her. Everyone was moving forward with all their might, but in the face of such a strange space, no one could truly stand out. They had not even advanced into celestial level, so naturally, no one had any advantage to speak of. There was clearly only a distance of about 500 meters left, and originally, they could cross it with a casual step, but after another 4 days, they had only advanced about 300 meters. The closer they got to the void flower, the more the folding of space became. However, when they advanced another 300 meters or so, everyone felt their divine sense relax, and there was no longer any sense of restraint or awkwardness. The space returned to normal. The void flower swayed. It clearly did not emit any scent, but everyone could smell a fragrance that seeped into their noses, making their minds relax. Just any random person has run out. A demon master swept an eye over Ling Han and Ling Han, his lips curling up in disdain, but his next words were, and he said, "You two stay at one side, I can guarantee your safety." He had been moved by the Empress's unparalleled charm, and that was why he had said such words. Otherwise, he definitely would not be so meddlesome. The other demon masters only smiled faintly and did not say anything more. The Empress's beauty had caused their hearts that had long been sealed away, and only left with the desire to pursue the peak of martial art, to stir. Even if that demon master from before had not spoken, they would still have made a move, and definitely would not harm her. Meanwhile, Han Chi's expression was filled with disdain, and he said, "All of you, get lost. Mere minions, and you dare compete with me for fated opportunities? Young man, you are too arrogant." The desolate cloud demon master rebuked coldly. "You are seeking death." Han Chi pointed out with a finger. There was no scene of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking, but there was only a streak of blood-colored light that shot out, but its speed was extremely quick. It had only been shot out, and it had already appeared in front of the desolate cloud demon master. Pooh! The streak of blood-colored light directly sank into the desolate cloud demon master's forehead, and then flew out from the back of his head. A spray of fresh blood sprayed out, and the eyes of this demon master immediately dimmed, his life force dissipating. There was no gravity in the void, and he still maintained his standing posture, but his 4 limbs drooped weakly. A sorrowful aura spread out between the heaven and earth. A rain of blood flew, lamenting the passing of a demon master. Everyone was stunned at first, and then they were greatly shocked. That was a black demon, and it was actually insta-killed by a person who was unbelievably young. This was like a dream, causing them to all doubt their own eyes. Had they fallen for some kind of illusion technique? "I told you all to get lost, but you didn't, so don't blame me for starting a massacre," Han Chi said coldly. Hong, he released his own aura without reservation. It was like a landslide, like a tsunami, terrifying beyond description. "Tiananun heaven demon?" a demon master said in a trembling voice, filled with fear. At first, even yellow demons did not need to be too afraid of a heaven demon, because everyone's speed was about the same. Even if they could not afford to provoke him, they could still avoid him, right? Furthermore, if they angered him, he would target their descendants, friends, and disciples. Even a heaven demon would have a considerable headache. Thus, unless they had the determination to kill the other party, even a heaven demon would give yellow demon some face. After all, they were all mighty figures that stood at the Genesis tier. But it was different now. The space here had overlapped, and they had to spend a great deal of time to come here, and they would also have to spend a similar amount of time to return. It was enough for a heaven demon to calmly kill them a few hundred times. This was a realm of despair. A few people set their eyes on the void flower. They believed that the overlapping space here was caused by this strange flower. If they plucked this flower away, the space should be able to recover. Then, they would break into a run, and they believed that even a heaven demon would not be able to catch up to them. Ho ho! Give up this kind of unnecessary fantasy. Han Chi laughed loudly. A white mist surged out from his body, and instantly enveloped the whole area. Everyone instantly felt as if a spell had been cast on their bodies, and they could not even move a single finger. They were done for. It was more refreshing to read on one's phone. Chapter 1600. Boom, blazing white flames surged inside Ling Han's body, and seals of great Tao danced on them. Han Chi's expression was filled with disdain. A mere severing mundane clan? So how strong could the celestial technique that they cultivated be? Those seals of great Tao were incomplete, and they still wanted to stand against him? What a fool. But he immediately discovered that something was off, because the ice mist he released was currently melting, and once again returned to a situation where he was on equal footing with Ling Han. His expression was filled with shock. His celestial technique had actually been blocked. How was this possible? The other seals of great Tao were incomplete, and this was already enough to stand against him. Then if they were complete, would he still be a match? This was a descendant of a severing mundane clan. Han Chi did not believe it. He couldn't help but feel moved. Actually, aside from training, he had another mission in entering the ancient realm, and that was to search for the treasures left behind by celestial kings that had been defeated in the ancient realm. In that great turmoil, only an extremely small number of low-level forces managed to leave the celestial realm intact, such as Severing Mundane Tier. Above the Severing Mundane Tier, every force was massacred, and at most, only a few minor characters managed to luckily escape to the ancient realm. Aside from that, there were celestial kings. Celestial kings were too powerful, and even if they were surrounded, they had the means to escape, but if they stayed in the ancient realm for too long, so what if they were celestial kings? Their lifespan would still dry up. Though there were not many celestial kings that had fallen into the ancient realm, they still attracted the attention of many clans in the celestial realm. Just like Han Chi, he trained while searching for the whereabouts of the treasures left behind by celestial kings. He looked at Ling Han, and a guess rose up in his mind. This guy couldn't have obtained the inheritance of a celestial king, right? Otherwise, how could the techniques of a mere severing mundane clan compare to his? This was really a heaven-sent opportunity. He showed a sinister expression. This time, he had really profited greatly. Celestial medicine, supreme beauty, and celestial king technique, he had obtained 3 in one go. Don't show such an expression, that's just wishful thinking, Ling Han said calmly. One has to be down to earth, and don't think too much about things that one shouldn't think about. Han Chi laughed loudly. You are quite arrogant. It's just so. I'm just speaking the truth. Ling Han shrugged. Then let me see whether your mouth is tough, or your strength is tough. Han Chi's figure moved, and he had already arrived before Ling Han. He punched out, and whang, countless seal patterns appeared, twining around his fist. Behind him, a river of stars appeared densely packed together. He specialized in the law of frost. When he punched out, even the void was about to be frozen. It was extremely terrifying. Ling Han was fearless. He raised his fist and punched back. Bang bang bang, the two of them punched each other more than a dozen times, but it was hard to tell who was better. They were both at the consummate level of the Genesis tier, and they had also grasped the regulations of the two realms, so their battle prowess was about the same. However, Ling Han frowned slightly. In this kind of exchange, he discovered that his physique could not hold on any longer. One had to realize that the installation of power from the Black Tower had only increased his cultivation level, but his physique still remained at its original level. And Han Chi was from the Celestial Realm, so he had obtained a shocking amount of cultivation resources. He actually had very high attainments in physique, which was almost comparable to godly metal of the same level. This was far inferior to the indestructible Heaven Scroll, but now it was very nature-defying, and he was practically standing in an invincible position. Trash from a one-star city like you? How could you be worthy of being compared to my Han clan? Han Chi laughed madly. His fists did not stop, and he was very aggressive. He wanted to defeat Ling Han in a single blow. The difference in cultivation level was really too great, and his physique was far inferior. Ling Han shook his head internally, and no longer fought head-on with his fists. He used the lightning sword technique. Shio, 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 sword chi crisscrossed, dazzling the skies. He forcefully broke through Han Chi's attack. As he punched out, sword chi turned into a flash of light that pierced straight for Han Chi's face. 9 layers of ice. Han Chi humphed lightly. White fog suddenly condensed in front of him and froze, forming a defense like a wall. On the ice wall, seals of great Tao appeared. This was an indestructible defense. Pung the sword light hit, but it only created a small crack on the first layer of the ice wall. You can't even break through the first layer of my 9 layers armor, and you still have delusions of thinking of wounding me? Han Chi smirked coldly. I really don't know where your courage comes from, actually daring to fight with me. Ling Han humphed, and the 9 heavens flame was activated. Blazing flames ignited on his fist, and that ice wall was like snow that had come into contact with boiling water, immediately melting. What? Han Chi was shocked. This was not the end. The 9 heavens flame unleashed its might, and wherever Ling Han's fist passed, layer after layer of ice wall was like paper mache. Ling Han instantly broke through and pressed directly in front of Han Chi. Han Chi cried out involuntarily, his face pale. What celestial technique was this? It actually restrained the Han clan's 9 layers of ice mist so badly. He had originally thought that no matter how capable Ling Han was, he would at most be able to break through 2 to 3 layers of ice wall, but never would he have thought that once that ball of flame appeared, it would actually be so irresistible. He had no choice but to withdraw and retreat. That flame was too terrifying. He had a feeling that if he was hit head-on, the ice element regulations of the great Tao in his body would be forcefully melted. Damn it! This had to be a celestial king technique, an immortal flame that had been cultivated through a celestial king technique. Otherwise, how could it be able to restrain the 9 layers of ice mist? It should be known that the Han clan was the ruler of a 3-star great city and had an immortal palace tier grand elder, who knew how many times stronger than a severing mundane tier. 9 layers ice spike. Han Chi's figure flashed, and after avoiding Ling Han's direct attack, he quickly counterattacked. He pointed out with a finger, and the white fog condensed into an ice spear that pierced towards Ling Han's left rib. If this spear pierced through, even a great star would be forcibly shattered. It contained all the power and grasp of regulations of an elite at the peak stage of the consummate level of the Genesis tier, and its destructive power was indescribably frightening. Ling Han's fist collided. He shot out a blazing flame that turned into a divine sword and slashed out at the ice spear. Pung the spear and sword collided, and a stretch of red and white spread out. This was the collision of fire and ice, and also the collision of 2 kinds of regulations of great Tao, causing the whole world to become 2 different colors. Those demon masters could not escape in time, but their faces were still charred black from the shock waves, and there were icicles hanging from their bodies. And this was still because they had advanced into the level of demon master. If they had been in the eternal river tier, that wave of shock waves would have been enough to kill them all. Chang, with a sharp sound that could shake the universe, the sword of fire forcibly sliced through the ice spear and launched a powerful counterattack, slashing towards Han Chi. Han Chi gave a muffled grunt and delivered over a dozen attacks in succession. Multiple ice spears shot out and relied on numbers to forcibly extinguish the sword of fire. His face was slightly pale, and he also became incredibly cautious. Ling Han's strength had surpassed his expectations, and he definitely could not hold the slightest bit of underestimation. Otherwise, it was really possible that he would be killed by Ling Han. Die! Ling Han roared, and his figure leaped out. As his hands danced, he once again leveled up the lightning sword technique. This time, he had incorporated the might of the 9 heavens flame. Chapter 1601. Ling Han and Han Chi battled fiercely. Honestly speaking, both of them were fully deserving of the title of powerhouse. One was a king tier that had walked out step by step from a small world, and the other was a prodigy of the celestial realm. Whether it was physique, cultivation technique, or power, they were all top-notch in the ancient realm. Their clash was intense and exciting, enough to be recorded in the annals of history and passed down through the ages. Those demon masters were already stunned. Two young men, which one of them was born countless years later than them, yet caught up from behind, and left them far behind. There was always someone better than you. They sighed ruefully, and no longer had the slightest thought of coveting the void flower. Now they only had one thought, and that was to leave safely. Some had already begun to retreat, but there were also some who stayed behind. Firstly, they wanted to personally witness this battle that could possibly be the strongest in the history of the Netherworld, and secondly, it was a kind of support for Ling Han. You saved me, and I didn't even have the courage to cheer you on from the side. Then, would I still have the right to call myself a demon master elite? Ling Han had truly encountered a formidable opponent. He had indeed grasped a considerable number of celestial techniques, but so had Han Chi. Furthermore, he was a descendant of an immortal palace tier force, and the celestial techniques he grasped were even stronger than Ling Han's. Whether it was the tide of the ages or darkness of the paramount night, they both did not have the upper hand in front of the other. Thankfully, because they had not advanced into the celestial tier, they could not unleash the true might of the celestial techniques. Thus, though there was a difference in celestial techniques, they had been reduced to the level of the Genesis tier, so the difference was actually not very great. Not bad, not bad. Your strength is quite strong, enough for me to bring out my true strength. Han Chi laughed loudly and pointed with his right hand. Frost condensed and actually turned into a body of ice. It was slightly similar to his appearance, but at least 100 times bigger. 1,000 frost shadows, he said in a low voice and pointed with his right hand. One after another, frost giants appeared, their bodies entwined with the regulations of ice, and there was great Tao that turned into a long river that flowed within their bodies. Kill! With Han Chi's command, all the frost giants moved their legs and charged towards Ling Han. Ling Han was fearless. With a wave of his hands, a flaming blade appeared in each of his hands, formed from the 9 heavens flame. He charged towards the frost giants, slashing out with his sword. Pooh, a frost giant was melted into water vapor. Attack! Han Chi also rushed over. His hands formed a seal and pressed towards Ling Han. Cut for me! Ling Han unleashed his heavenly might as he charged towards Han Chi. Han Chi could not help but be shocked. His strength had actually been forcefully shaved off by around 2 stars. In a battle of this level, could a difference of 2 stars of power be tolerated? He immediately roared out loudly, and great Tao runes shone within his body, blocking this kind of impact. Ling Han silently nodded his head, as expected of a heaven chosen of the immortal realms. This move of his was useless. However, he did not mind. Although Han Chi could withstand his heaven's might, the frost giant that the other party had summoned could not. Over 100 sword chis that contained the might of the 9 heavens flame were all destroyed by him. It's time to merge the 9 heavens flame into the lightning sword technique. Ling Han said in his heart. The sword path that he was walking now encompassed everything in the world. As long as it was useful, he would stuff it into his sword technique. Remove the impurities and retain the essence, leaving only the most powerful part. He brandished the lightning sword technique and merged the might of the 9 heavens flame into it. This was not the power of rules, but a true ball of flames. It was one of the 9 great ancestral flames that could be called a precious treasure in the immortal realms. Thus, wanting to merge the 9 heavens flame into the lightning sword technique would be different from before. As Ling Han battled, he pondered. Right now, he was circulating both at the same time. Thus, his sword technique naturally contained a sliver of the might of the 9 heavens flame. However, there was still a long way to go before he could completely unleash the might of the 9 heavens flame. If he could merge the two even more perfectly, his battle prowess would naturally be able to increase by another level. Hold on. Since the 9 heavens flame was his source power, then why was there a need to deliberately merge them? This was his own power in the first place. Ling Han could not help but smile. He had taken the wrong path. In fact, the answer was surprisingly simple. Since the 9 heavens flame was the source of his power, he only had to activate it directly and then use the lightning sword technique. Then, the two would be able to merge perfectly together. He had fallen into a traditional misunderstanding in his train of thought, and thought that the Nine Heavens flame was an external power. In reality, from the moment that he had refined the Nine Heavens flame, it had already become a part of his body. Haha. He laughed loudly and suddenly flicked out a finger. Xiao, a sword light shot out, indescribably fast. In an instant, it had sliced in front of Han Chi, and there was a ball of fierce flames wrapped within the sword light. Han Chi paled in shock. He was not afraid of any of Ling Han's other techniques, but he was afraid of that ball of flames. At first, he had wanted to blast out a punch and dispel this sword light, but when he saw that it was still wrapped in fierce flames, he instantly dispelled that thought. Shua, a cold light flashed past, and a flag had already appeared in Han Chi's hands. It was not more than a foot long, and appeared rather strange in his hands. The flag was a little old, and there was a fierce beast drawn on it, spitting out cold mist. Ling Han was slightly surprised. The fierce beast on that flag just now seemed to have suddenly come alive, and spat out a mouthful of frost, stopping his sword light in time. Otherwise, if Han Chi had been struck by it, the Nine Heavens flame would have long since burned him to ashes. To be able to force me to use the Nine Hells frozen water flag, you can be proud of yourself, Han Chi said coldly. But now you can go and die. He waved the flag, and Wang, the flag grew in the wind, and actually turned into a battle flag that was as long as 30 feet. He used the flagpole like a spear, sweeping and thrusting it at Ling Han. Meanwhile, the ferocious beast in the flag was also continuously spewing out frosty air, causing the entire galaxy to feel as if it had fallen into an endless ice cave. Even if it was a demon master, so what? The surrounding elites all shivered, involuntarily folding their arms, and forcibly burning the fire of life to resist. Otherwise, the fire of life would be extinguished. Ling Han did not hold back, and drew out the divine demon sword and the broken wooden sword. The two swords joined together, and met the battle flag. Though the broken wooden sword was a level 20 demonic weapon, it could not withstand the might of the Nine Heavens flame. On the other hand, though the divine demon sword was only level 17, it could withstand it. However, the blade of the sword had become completely red, and the patterns on it seemed like they were about to melt. Ling Han was not worried. These patterns were only formed from the divine demon sword swallowing a large amount of godly metal, and were not formed from its essence. Otherwise, how could the divine demon sword be something that he could erase now? That was fine. For the divine demon sword, these patterns were actually only impurities. If he erased them, then so be it. Ling Han wielded his sword and moved. Hong, the divine demon sword added with the lightning sword technique, fused with the Nine Heavens flame. What kind of concept was this? Celestial tools were Celestial King tier level in the first place, and so was the Nine Heavens flame. With these two added together, they were so strong that they had no friends. Even if the divine demon sword was still far from leaping into the level of celestial tools, and the Nine Heavens flame was also very immature, it should not be forgotten that Han Chi was presently only in the Genesis tier. Cell phones read more refreshingly. Chapter 1602. Han Chi was filled with regret. He took out the battle flag, wanting to use it to turn the tables, but he never imagined that Ling Han was even fiercer than him, and the treasured sword in his hand was even stronger, making his disadvantage even more obvious. Damn it, he roared and suddenly turned to leave. If he couldn't beat him, then why fight to the death? However, the space here overlapped, and he had to spend endless time running over, and it was the same if he wanted to leave. He needed to spend a great deal of time to calculate the way out, but where would he have the time now? Ling Han didn't catch up, but as he slashed out with his sword, it forcibly tore open space, and directly arrived in front of Han Chi. This scared Han Chi half to death. What was going on? Ling Han was also startled, but when he thought that the divine demon sword and Nine Heavens flame were both future Celestial King level beings, they naturally had their unique aspects, and it was normal that the Void Flower couldn't trap their might. After all, the Void Flower only contained the regulations of space and moved Celestial Kings, but it didn't mean that it could fight against Celestial Kings. Their attack arrived, and Han Chi was forced to use the battle flag to block it. The result was that the sword fire slashed on the flag, leaving behind a scorched mark. Han Chi's heart ached terribly. In the celestial realm, level 20 godly material was the limit, and above that was only celestial material. But celestial material was rare. Putting aside the fact that he couldn't possibly have it, the Grand Elder of the Han clan couldn't possibly have it, and even many celestial kings couldn't have it. Then what to do? The celestial realm had its own method, which was to use level 20 godly material as the foundation and continuously fuse it to increase the quality of the godly material. In the celestial realm, this kind of fused godly material was called half-celestial material and was divided into 5 grades, from 1 star to 5 stars, with 1 star being the lowest and 5 stars the highest. This flag of his actually didn't even reach 1 star, and could only be considered half a star at most, but he continuously refined it with his own power, and a ferocious beast was drawn on the flag by the elders of his clan, so it could use celestial techniques. In the future, he would fuse more godly material so that this flag would grow stronger along with him, but he had just arrived in the ancient realm for a few days, and this 9 Serenity Frost water flag was damaged, making his heart ache terribly. Ling Han laughed heartily. Han Chi could be considered as throwing his life away. Now that he was trapped in the overlapping space, there was no way he could fight back. He could only be bombarded. You asked for it. Ling Han continued to strike with his sword. Shio shio shio. Streams of sword chi tore through space, blasting wildly at Han Chi. He had to make the best use of his time to deal with Han Chi. Otherwise, one day later, the effects of the power boost from the Black Tower would disappear, and at that time, it would be his turn to hide inside the Black Tower. Han Chi bellowed angrily. He waved the battle flag to block, but every time he blocked, the flag would always be slightly damaged or charred. As the damage accumulated, the flag became tattered. "You're going too far," he shouted loudly. "My Han clan is the overlord of 9th Underworld City. That's a 3-star city, and it's definitely not something that your Ding clan can afford to offend. Come bite me then." Ling Han was indifferent. He had mentioned the name of the Ding clan to cause trouble for the Ding clan. Since he had promised Hu Yu that he would deal with the Ding clan, he naturally did not mind creating some trouble for the Ding clan before he even went to the celestial realm. You will definitely regret this," Han Chi said through gritted teeth. A mere lackey from a small 1-star city dared to provoke him. When he sent the news back to the Han clan, the latter would definitely cry. "That's a matter for the future. Right now, I'll kill you first," Ling Han said coldly. This guy actually dared to make a move on his wife. This was unforgivable. Sword light blazed, dancing in the air. Han Chi really could not hold on any longer. When the battle flag had been completely shaved into a flagpole, he, too, had fallen into a desperate situation. He was repeatedly slashed by sword chi, and no matter how he channeled the 9 underworld's cold chi to resist, it was useless. The destructive power of the divine demon sword and the 9 heavens flame was too frightening. They corroded his physical body and rapidly destroyed his life force. But Han Chi's physical body was destroyed, and his spirit flew out, turning into a ball of light that was only the size of a fist. That was a human figure, and looked exactly the same as Han Chi. Sword chi and flames still wanted to spread further, but a dark light appeared and forcibly blocked the sword chi and flames. This dark light was incredibly powerful and forcibly tore apart the space. It enveloped Han Chi's spirit, and with a flash, it disappeared. The space overlapped, and it was as if Han Chi had never existed. Ling Han's heart clenched. This was definitely not Han Chi's own power. That was too powerful, and surpassed the level of the Genesis tier. It's a protective measure that the Grand Elders of the Han clan have placed on him. Once his physical body is destroyed, and his spirit is in danger, this power will appear, and bring his spirit back to the celestial realm. This is fine as well. Now, the Han clan only knows that I am a member of the Ding clan, so they will naturally only seek trouble with the Ding clan. This is not a place to stay for long. I'll leave after plucking the void flower. Ling Han immediately turned around and returned to the side of the void flower and stretched out a hand to pluck it. However, the space around the void flower collapsed. This possessed terrifying destructive power and could break and shatter everything that was trapped inside. Thankfully, this was the netherworld, and the strongest power was only the peak stage of the Genesis tier, and Ling Han just happened to be standing on this cultivation level. Patterns of great Tao entwined his hand, resisting the power of the space collapsing. Then, he grabbed the void flower and stored it into the black tower. Once the void flower was plucked, the surrounding space immediately returned to normal, and there was no longer any collapse or overlapping space. Ling Han smiled slightly, and with a thought, a golden path spread out. Since he now had the power of the Genesis tier, he naturally had to make good use of it. All the demon masters watched as Ling Han disappeared and then breathed a sigh of relief. They would naturally be worried whether Ling Han would make a move to silence them. Only when they completely could not sense Ling Han's aura did they relax, and hurriedly spread out their respective golden paths to leave. That said, Han Chi was wrapped up by that dim light, and broke through the barrier of the celestial realm, entering into a whole new world. The dim light brought his spirit through thousands of mountains and rivers, and several days later he arrived inside a city. This city was astonishingly large, comparable to any great planet in the immortal realm. Humph! An incredibly powerful being released a displeased voice. He stretched out a hand, and Han Chi's spirit appeared in front of him. What happened? It's only been a few days, and your body has actually been destroyed by someone, and you were forced to use the support power inside your body. In reply to 8th Elder, I was wounded by a member of a clan of the same celestial realm. I suspect that person has obtained the inheritance of a celestial king, Han Chi said. What? That powerful 8th Elder stood up in a leap. As his aura spread out, it was as if even the heavens were prostrating towards him, indescribably powerful. Which clan's descendant? Dark Moon City, Ding Clan, Han Chi hurriedly answered. Dark Moon City. The 8th Elder paused slightly, and couldn't help but look furious. You can't even defeat the descendant of a mere one-star small city? Han Chi's expression was filled with grievance. In reply to 8th Elder, that brat has obtained the inheritance of a celestial king, and I am no match for him. The 8th Elder waved his sleeves and said, I will personally make a trip to Dark Moon City, and have them hand over detailed information about that brat. Strange, a mere severing mundane tier actually has the ability to send someone to the ancient realm, he frowned. This was a little inconceivable. Chapter 1604. The cloud-piercing shuttle landed, and Ling Han put it away, striding towards the chaotic demon palace. Very soon he arrived at the chaotic demon palace, and the Hysteria Demon Master personally received him. Ling Han appropriately revealed some secrets of the celestial realm, causing this demon master to be incredibly shocked. This had broken countless years of understanding. However, a demon master was a demon master, after all. He very quickly accepted this fact. Ling Han had made a promise with him. When he had the ability to break through the barrier of the celestial realm one day, he would bring this demon master into the celestial realm with him. He left behind some treasures, which were looted from the bodies of over 100 heaven demons, earth demons, and black demons. Any few of them were enough to cause the Hysteria Demon Master's eyes to widen and his heart to thump furiously. Ling Han, where are the two sisters? Ling Han had just walked out of the Hysteria Demon Master's house when he saw Wu Ju immediately approach, sticking his head out to look around. Ling Han gave him a kick. That's my wife. Go away. If you dare have any more wild thoughts, I'll turn you into a eunuch. The little submissive looked aggrieved and grumbled. Emily came to see him off, and when she found out that the true limit of the Eternal River tier was 10 million stars, she couldn't help but gape in shock. It was really rare to see such an obvious change in expression on her. Ling Han told her some tricks. These were all the conclusions of the various forbidden lands over countless years. Ouyang Taishan had told him, and Ling Han would never hide anything from the people around him, especially the mysteries of martial art. He set off again, and came to Cold Cloud Planet to pay a visit to the Overlord Sword Demon Master. In the past, Both the Hysteria Demon Master and the Overlord Sword Demon Master had stood up for him, and he remembered this favor. Ling Han similarly promised to bring the Overlord Sword Demon Master with him when he entered the Celestial Realm, and also left behind some treasures as a gift of thanks, causing this Demon Master to feel very rueful. As the saying went, if one sought benevolence, one would be rewarded. Ling Han, remember to come back for me. When he walked out of the house, Zhu Xian's eyes were full of tenderness. Ling Han was not interested in her at all, so he told her the truth to avoid delaying her. Miss Zhu, I already have a few female confidants, what about you? I'm not listening. Zhu Xian didn't allow him to finish. She covered her ears with both hands and turned to run. Ling Han sighed and hoped that this would not be an ill-fated relationship. Anyway, he would not go and provoke other women. Just the beauties around him were enough to give him a headache. The cloud-piercing shuttle shot through the air, flying toward the passageway between the two realms. In fact, there were many passageways between the two realms in the Netherworld, and any one of them could lead to the God Realm. However, Ling Han wasn't familiar with the other parts of the God Realm. What if he came out from another passageway that was even further away? Forget it, I'll just go back the way I came. After all, it's only a matter of a few years. The cloud-piercing shuttle hurried on, while Ling Han and the others cultivated inside the Black Tower. 2 years had passed, and they had arrived at the passageway between the two worlds. Compared to 2 years ago, their strength had improved tremendously. Not only had the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden advanced into the Eternal River tier, she had even reached the medium extreme, and the Empress had reached the peak stage of the consummate level of the Eternal River tier. She was working hard to take a breakthrough and advance into the pinnacle level. In comparison, Ling Han's improvement in cultivation level was the smallest. He had just reached the peak stage of the high extreme and needed to settle for a while. Then, he would break through to the consummate level in one go. After entering into the immortal realm, the Hu clan will be able to capture the thread of karma on me, so another battle is unavoidable. However, I'll leave the last power boost to them. Ling Han murmured to himself. It was obviously unrealistic to hope that the Hu clan would learn their lesson and stop here. They walked on foot and began to pass through the passageway between the two realms. Now, the three of them were all in the Eternal River tier, and one of them had even reached the consummate level of the Eternal River tier. In this place, they were naturally invincible. However, they had no intention of killing for no reason. They had displayed the special characteristics of the Netherworld in the Netherworld, and after entering into the Immortal Realm, they had naturally changed. Though the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden had not managed to merge the regulations of the two realms, she could switch between them. However, her strength had dropped greatly after entering into the Immortal Realm. After all, she had always been cultivating the regulations of the Netherworld. Passing through the two-realm battlefield, they returned to the Immortal Realm, and all felt as if they had seen the light of day again, though they had not stayed in the Netherworld for many years. They once again paid a visit to the Purple Moon Divine Maiden. What made them happy was that the Purple Moon Divine Maiden had actually achieved a breakthrough in these few years, and advanced into the consummate level of the Eternal River tier. Of course, the Purple Moon Divine Maiden was definitely even more shocked, because the speed of advancement of these three people was even faster. As usual, Ling Han left behind some cultivation resources. With his present wealth, this was naturally a small matter. After leaving the Purple Moon Army, the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden asked, "Should we return to Peace Planet now, or go to Wood Figure Planet?" Wood Figure Planet, Ling Han answered without hesitation. He still had some matters to attend to, such as asking Long Xiangyue about the whereabouts of her aunt, and asking for a dragon's horn. The two women naturally would not object. They once again hurried on the cloud-piercing shuttle, heading towards Wood Figure Planet. They did not spend much time on the journey. In a mere few months, they had arrived at Wood Figure Planet. The cloud-piercing shuttle landed quietly and did not alert anyone. Ling Han and the others arrived at the 8th campus. This place was just like before, as if the incident with the Hu clan had not happened at all. Ling Han. However, when they appeared at the entrance of the Martial Arts Academy, a person just happened to walk out right in front of them. When he saw the three of them, he was immediately surprised, and then flew into a great rage, throwing a punch at Ling Han. "You bastard, you actually dare to come back." The Empress took a step forward and pressed down with her palm. Pung! That person was immediately sent flying. In front of the present Empress, even big shots like Kai Miao and Ren Feiyun could only concede defeat. Ling Han smiled slightly and stopped the Empress's further actions. He asked, "What about me? Why can't I come back?" "The Martial Arts Academy has been ruined by you." That person struggled to his feet and rebuked Ling Han angrily. A thought flashed through Ling Han's mind. At that time, though he had drawn the trouble away, the Hu clan probably would not let the Star Sand Martial Arts Academy off so easily. He nodded and asked, "After I left, what happened?" Under his repeated questioning, that person finally revealed the truth. Though the Hu clan had not carried out a massacre in the Star Sand Martial Arts Academy, they had caused the academy to bleed profusely and practically emptied out the treasury. In these few years, the disciples of the academy had all lived very pitiful lives, because they could not distribute their cultivation resources at all, and the main culprit was naturally Ling Han. Ling Han stroked his chin. This debt definitely had to be settled with the Hu clan. Whatever they had taken, he would make them return tenfold, no, 100-fold. Ling Han, another person, walked out and immediately revealed a dense killing intent. "Kai Miao." Ling Han couldn't help but smile and said, "Senior brother Kai, long time no see. Previously, though you had been very aggressive towards me, I had at least acknowledged that you were a king tier of a generation, but you actually willingly became someone else's lackey, which makes me look down on you. Don't flaunt your eloquence." Kai Miao pointed at Ling Han. "You fled in fear of punishment and implicated the academy, and you actually have the face to return. I will suppress you." Chapter 1605. Ling Han shook his head and said, "If we're talking about punishment, it's not your turn. Don't pretend to be righteous here. I say, the last time you brought that ugly woman over to cause trouble for me, I still haven't settled this debt with you. What qualifications do you have to defy the Saint Mother?" Kai Miao said coldly, and there was a trace of jealousy in his eyes as he looked at Ling Han. He was indeed jealous of the young man in front of him. When he had just entered the academy, he had been forced to crawl through the dog hole. Although this had aroused his boundless ambition, it was undeniable that his mind had still been twisted. And what made him feel even more indignant was that Ling Han had an unparalleled beauty by his side. Which part of him was inferior to Ling Han? Why didn't he have the help of a benefactor and avoid the shame of the dog hole? Why didn't he have the company of an unparalleled beauty by his side? Therefore, he had always been displeased with Ling Han. When the two of them were confronting each other, other students discovered them and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. "You call A, I call B," and immediately more people came over. "Ling Han. It's Ling Han. He actually came back. Senior brother Ling. Senior brother Ling. Senior brother Ling." Everyone cried out one after another. Although some people hated Ling Han, because it was because of him that they had no cultivation resources to use these few years, there were even more people who remembered that he had stood up for the academy's dignity and resolutely received 3 moves from Huangmu. He had made Huangmu apologize in front of everyone, and then killed him on the spot. To the majority of people, this was a legend. Now that the legend had appeared in front of them, everyone was naturally excited and shouted out one after another. Ling Han nodded at everyone, which could be considered as a greeting. There were too many people, and he didn't have the time to greet them one by one. "Ling Han." Kai Miao shouted loudly. He was naturally unwilling to be left to the side. "Don't be anxious, I haven't forgotten about you." Ling Han turned to glance at him, a cold glint flickering in his eyes. He felt that Kai Miao was deliberately targeting him, unlike the others, who had previously only hated him because of tradition. "Since you're targeting me, then there's no need for me to be polite. Come and fight." Kai Miao called out loudly. There was no rule in the Star Sand Martial Arts Academy that forbade the strong from bullying the weak. If you were afraid of being beaten, then obediently stay in your room and not come out. "Kai Miao, are you still a human?" Rin Feiyun strode out. Back then, when a saint arrived and wantonly trampled on our martial arts institution's dignity, where were you? Why didn't I see you jump out? Instead, it was Ling Han who stood out and reclaimed our martial arts institution's dignity. But what about you? You actually treat him like this now. His face was full of disdain. Why didn't you challenge Ling Han back then? At that time, Ling Han was still burning his Saint King blood essence, and his battle prowess was unparalleled. You didn't dare to challenge him at all. You want to fight? Come, I'll be your opponent. His words were powerful and resonant, and also resonated with the majority of the people. They all began to shout out in support of Ling Han. Kai Miao's expression involuntarily turned ugly, and he said, "Don't forget, it is also because of him that the martial arts institution has been implicated." Good for him, he just patted his behind and left, but what about us? All of you should think carefully. What cultivation resources have we obtained in these few years, and who was the one that caused this? Kai Miao, have you had enough? Ren Feiyun's voice was icy cold. He could no longer hold himself back from making a move. Shua. It was at this moment that a figure stepped out before him, leaping towards Kai Miao. It was the Empress, daring to insult her husband. Beat. With a wave of her hand, she lashed out at Kai Miao. Kai Miao was indifferent. Previously, the Empress could fight him to a draw, and that was because she had a strange stone in her hand that could absorb all attacks. It was not that the Empress's strength could match his. And now, you want to fight me without using that stone? He smirked coldly. He knew that this kind of noble and cold woman definitely had to be defeated first, and then he could conquer her heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be bothered to give him a second look. You are no match for me. I don't want to hurt you. But he had not even finished his words when Kai Miao had already received a heavy slap. His whole person was suddenly sent flying. Pooh, blood spurted out madly, drawing out an arc in the skies. It was like a rainbow, but it was a little more tragic. The Empress stood incredibly haughty, her expression filled with contempt. But it was clearly such a condescending expression, yet it was hard for anyone to feel the slightest bit of disgust when they saw it. They only felt that the Empress was too mighty and domineering. They really wanted to kneel and lick her. Kai Miao's bottom landed on the ground, and he immediately bounced back to his feet. His expression was filled with shame and indignation. He took a few more looks at the Empress and menacingly said, "So you have advanced into the consummate level of the Eternal River tier. No wonder, this was extremely shocking." It should be known that when the Empress had just entered the academy, she had only been in the pinnacle level of the Heavenly Body tier, but now she had shockingly reached the consummate level of the Eternal River tier, and could even attempt to break through to the Saint tier. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Those that could enter this place were naturally the prodigies and king tiers of their respective galaxies, and were used as role models by others. Who among them could advance into the Mountain River tier in a few years, and reach the Sun Moon tier in a few years, but compared to Empress Luanxing, they were all trash. Yet Kai Miao did not look afraid. Just now, he had underestimated the latter's strength. Furthermore, he had walked the path of using his body as a formation. Only when the formation showed its might would it be the embodiment of his true strength. "You have angered me," he said. Wung, 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 a killing formation was activated inside his body, and multiple formation patterns appeared on his skin, which was indescribably frightening. But the Empress delivered another slap, and Kai Miao once again flew into the skies. What was going on? Though they had heard from Kai Miao that Empress Luanxing had already reached the consummate level of the Eternal River tier, no one thought that the Empress could really match Kai Miao, because this was one of the 3 big shots of the 8th campus. What was a big shot? It meant invincible among those of the same cultivation level. They believed that as long as Kai Miao's killing formation showed its might, he would definitely be able to suppress Empress Luanxing. After all, she had just advanced into this cultivation level, so how could she possibly stand against a big shot? But the result was a slap to everyone's face. So what if the killing array showed its might? It would still be whipped. Ren Feiyun, all the students, impossible? Kai Miao covered his face with his hand. His hair was a little messy, and he looked at the Empress in astonishment. He definitely could not accept this result. How could the Empress possibly pay any attention to him? She waved her slender hand repeatedly, and pa 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 pa. It was a series of slaps that greeted Kai Miao's ears. Kai Miao was completely unable to retaliate at all. Right now, not only was her cultivation level the same as Kai Miao's, she was also a divine fetus and had even cultivated a few celestial techniques. With such battle prowess, how could she not be able to crush a fake big shot? If she had not reached the pinnacle level, how could she be called a big shot? Pa 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 pa, everyone was dumbstruck. The big shot in their hearts, Kai Miao, who would never lose in a battle of the same cultivation level, was now as weak as a weak scholar who had never cultivated before. That's fucking unbelievable. Chapter 1606. The Empress waved her hand, looking like she was about to strike again. Kai Miao hurriedly broke into a run, but he had just moved when he discovered that he had actually entered into a completely sealed space. There was no way out and no way out. As he faltered, he had already returned to a normal space again, but there was another person in front of him. Ling Han. Suddenly, he was filled with rage. The Empress had already become a big shot among big shots, and he was completely no match for her, but Ling Han was only in the high extreme of the Eternal River tier, so how could he possibly be a match for a big shot like him? I'll start with you. He grabbed out at Ling Han. All the frustration he had with the Empress would be repaid on Ling Han. Ling Han was vexed. He presently grasped too many abilities, and didn't even know which one to use against Kai Miao. Killing Formation, 9 Heavens Fire Lightning Sword Technique, Tide of the Ages, Dark Flying Dragon Shadow Hand of Extreme Night's Eye. He sighed softly. This expression was naturally a sign of weakness in Kai Miao's eyes. He couldn't help but smirk coldly. This brat really didn't know his place. He already didn't have the blood essence of a Saint King, and still dared challenge him. He hated Ling Han. With such a precious treasure like the blood essence of a Saint King, he actually used it on a whim. If it was given to him, he naturally would use it in a treasure hunt in an ancient site that required the blood essence of a Saint King, so what kind of precious treasure was that? What a waste! A colossal waste. Thus, he hated Ling Han to the core. As he pressed out with his palm, a killing formation circulated. He wouldn't kill Ling Han, but he would make the latter suffer enough. Ling Han considered for a moment, and stretched out a finger at Kai Miao. An indescribably deep darkness instantly surrounded Kai Miao. It was clearly only an area of 9 meters, but Kai Miao was trapped within, unable to escape no matter how hard he tried. Everyone was greatly shocked. Had Ling Han become a saint? How was it that with a single finger, Kai Miao was trapped within the darkness, never to appear again? Furthermore, he had just made Kai Miao disappear mysteriously. What kind of technique was that? Only a few years had passed, and the gap between them and Ling Han seemed to have reached an indescribable extent. And a few years ago, they could still say that Ling Han had channeled the blood essence of a holy king, so it was normal that he could not compare, but now? Some people were just too amazing. They could always create miracles, and people could only worship them. Senior brother Ling. Everyone cheered. Warriors worshipped the strong, and Ling Han had won everyone's respect with his strength. Ling Han nodded with a smile, and entered the martial courtyard with the 2 girls. All the students followed behind one after another, and all of them were talking at once. Most of them were asking about Ling Han's experiences in the past few years. Of course, there were also some people who wanted to know how Ling Han had become so powerful. Ling Han didn't hide anything. He said that he had been chased by Hu Feng and had escaped into the netherworld. However, he had made a name for himself there, and had even befriended the 2 demon masters. This caused everyone to click their tongues in wonder. If it were them, they wouldn't even be able to endure until the rules had changed completely. They would have long been targeted and killed by the elites of the netherworld. Of course, regarding the core matters, such as the Celestial Realm and the Black Tower, Ling Han naturally couldn't divulge them. It was better to let the Star Sand Saint decide whether to announce some things. You've returned. The Tranquil Heart Saint appeared, and nodded at Ling Han, an expression of surprise on his face. 27 killing formations, and it was the strongest below the saint level, the limitless 9 deaths formation. This brat was a monster. Greetings, saint. Ling Han clasped his hands in greeting. The Tranquil Heart Saint could be called a good teacher and helpful friend. Come. The Tranquil Heart Saint brought Ling Han to see the Star Sand Saint. The threat of the Hu clan hadn't been resolved, so how would Ling Han dare to return at this time? Did he not want to live anymore? Ling Han only said that he had the means to possess the strength of a Saint King for a short period of time, so there was no need to worry about the Hu clan. Additionally, he revealed the secret of the celestial realm to the 2 saints. When he entered the celestial realm in the future, he wouldn't mind bringing some people with him. The 2 saints were both stunned. Don't say that they were already standing at the apex of the immortal realm, but in the celestial realm, they couldn't even be called elites. This caused them to be slightly disappointed, and even difficult to accept. However, saints were saints, after all, so it was naturally impossible that they didn't even have this bit of courage. Very soon, they pulled themselves together. They could cultivate to the highest level in the ancient realm, which proved that their natural talent was astonishing. Then, after entering into the celestial realm, they should not be weaker than others. After returning to the 8th campus, Ling Han specially asked the Tranquil Heart Saint for guidance on formations. This was a saint that had entered the Tao through formations, and in terms of understanding of formations, he was far above the Star Sand Saint. The Tranquil Heart Saint was also very appreciative of Ling Han. He sighed ruefully in his heart. In the past, it would have been good if he had taken Ling Han as his personal disciple, but now, the potential and strength that the latter had displayed had caused him to gasp in surprise. He felt that he wasn't qualified to take Ling Han as his disciple. Ling Han could have killed Huingmu a long time ago, but he couldn't even take a single move from the latter. Furthermore, a great many of Ling Han's questions had also greatly inspired him, and he frequently had profound comprehension. If this continued, perhaps in less than a few thousand years, he would be able to advance into the medium saint tier. He couldn't help but like Ling Han even more, and also felt even more that it was a pity that this was not his disciple. Ling Han benefited even more. In terms of the basic grasp of formations, the Tranquil Heart Saint far surpassed him, and explained to him in simple terms, allowing him to suddenly see the light. He felt that as long as he could step into the saint tier, he would be able to very quickly grasp saint-level formations. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye, a few months had already passed. 8 Stones Forbidden Land, Hu Clan. In the instant that Ling Han entered into the immortal realm, Hu Luo immediately opened his eyes, a flash of fury and pain flashing across his face. Feng is actually dead. He pinched his fingers together to calculate, and after a good while, his hair and beard involuntarily stood on end, as if he was extremely shocked. It's that despicable brat. How is this possible? According to my calculations, he should no longer have the blood essence of a Saint King on him, and Feng has received a drop of blood essence from me, so how could he possibly have died at the hands of that despicable brat? The thread of karma cannot be faked. Oyang Taishan, you old fool, it must be you. Hu Luo suddenly slammed his palm on the table, and a terrifying power swept out. Boom, the house that he was in was instantly shattered into pieces, and a female attendant and a Taoist child did not even have the chance to cry out in shock before they were turned into dust along with the house. He finally managed to control his emotions. Otherwise, it would not just be a problem of a house, but the entire 8 Stones Forbidden Land. Elder! 6 saints immediately appeared, all of them looking at Hu Luo with respectful gazes. Though the Hu clan still had 2 Saint Kings, only Hu Feng alone had reached the peak stage, and his battle prowess was even at the level of a big shot. He was the Hu clan's pillar of stability, but the elder had actually flown into a thunderous rage, which naturally shocked the others. Thread of karma. Hu Feng. They very quickly found out the reason for Hu Luo's rage, and all of their faces involuntarily darkened. Hu Feng was too outstanding, and they believed that even in the celestial realm, he could be called a genius, but now, he had actually been killed by someone. Ouyang Taishan previously acted as a lobbyist for that despicable brat, and now that Feng has died at the hands of that despicable brat, I believe that this must have been because Ouyang Taishan had heavily injured Feng, and that despicable brat had taken the opportunity to kill him, Hu Luo said sinisterly, and even his killing intent had materialized. Chapter 1608. The Star Sand Saint's heart trembled. Actually, it was not that they did not want Ling Han to come out. Previously, Ling Han had said that when the Hu clan came, he would use his trump card and display the battle prowess of a peak stage Saint King, directly wiping out all the elites of the Hu clan. However, Ling Han was very fond of cultivating in seclusion, and he would often disappear. This left the Star Sand Saint feeling very helpless. At this critical moment, you're missing again. He swept a glance at Kai Miao, and couldn't help but feel great hatred in his heart. If it wasn't for this disciple being a traitor, how could he be so passive? All he had to do was insist that Ling Han wasn't here. The Star Sand Saint didn't know about the existence of karma threads. Hu Luo was slightly stunned. He suddenly caught sight of the thread of karma again. His old eyes narrowed slightly, and very quickly, he saw a figure fly over. His eyes immediately turned slightly red because this was the mortal enemy of the Hu clan. An eternal river tear actually became the mortal enemy of a forbidden land. This was practically a joke, but the truth was indeed so. 2 saints of the Hu clan had died at the hands of Ling Han. 2 saints. Even in the forbidden lands, sages were not as common as cabbages. The Hu clan only had 10 of them. Every sage was nurtured at an unknown price. They had consumed no less than 3 sage medicines, and the death of every sage was a great loss. Moreover, Hu Feng was the future hope of the Hu clan, yet he also died in the hands of this despicable brat. I'm not late, am I? Ling Han said with a smile. His gaze swept over the saints of the Hu clan on the high platform, and killing intent flashed in his eyes as well. Hu Luo suppressed his killing intent, and said, since the main characters are all here, then let's begin sparring. That's right, this old man sees that this boy is not bad. Let them join our Hu family to battle. Yes, old ancestor. The saints of the Hu clan all smiled and nodded. When Kai Miao heard this, he gritted his teeth, and kowtowed 9 times in succession towards Hu Luo. Thank you, Grand Elder, for your help. This time he was completely standing on the opposite side of the Star Sand Martial Arts Academy, and there was no turning back. Flagrant betrayal below, all the students glared angrily at Kai Miao. Everyone here didn't have a good impression of the Hu clan. In the past, Hu Yingmu had been so arrogant, and he had trampled the entire academy beneath his feet. However, Kai Miao had actually acknowledged the traitor as his father, and everyone wanted to kill him. There's a bottom line. Kai Miao pretended not to see it. Since he had already come this far, he could only go all the way to the end. Hu Luo could not help but reveal a smile, and beckoned towards Kai Miao, saying, "Come here." He pointed out with a finger, and instantly, a ray of light entered Kai Miao's body. You take the lead. Kai Miao was first shocked, then overjoyed. He felt that there was a desolate power within his body that made him feel like he could blast a hole in the heavens and earth with a single punch. The saints of the Hu clan smirked coldly. This finger technique was called the God's Stunning Finger, and it could completely stimulate a person's potential, allowing them to gain a huge boost in combat power for a short period of time. However, after a single battle, they would be completely crippled. Does this kind of trash really think he can join the Hu clan? However, Kai Miao did not know that this was the nature-defying ability of a holy king, causing his battle prowess to soar. He knelt down again and said, "Thank you, Elder Ancestor, for your help. This lowly one will definitely not disappoint Elder Ancestor's great kindness." He leaped out and asked carelessly, "Who wants to battle with me?" All the students were filled with righteous indignation. They had really never seen such a shameless guy before. "I'll do it." A big shot among the students jumped out. He was the king tier of the 3rd campus, and his name was Sherdang. Haha. Without another word, Kai Miao directly shot out a punch, and the killing formations in his body activated. Combined with his current terrifying strength, Sherdang was actually not a match for him, and was directly sent flying out of the battle area. All around, there was silence. Shi Deng's limbs drooped, and his whole body was drenched in blood. With this blow, he had lost half his life, and had already fainted. Trash, Kai Miao spat. He was now really complacent. This was the supreme power that he had always been pursuing. How laughable. Previously, he had been painstakingly cultivating, but he had not thought that as long as an elite bestowed it, he would instantly be able to possess it. This was really the wisest choice he had ever made in his life. Next, he clasped his hands behind his back, insufferably arrogant. Me. All of a sudden, there were actually 4 big shots who jumped into the battle area at the same time, and Ren Feiyun was one of them. This was really a vile person intoxicated by success, causing everyone to be unable to continue. They only felt that killing him with a single sword strike was too easy, and that he should be nailed to the pillar at the entrance of the martial arts academy so that the future generations would spurn him and take this as a warning. I'll do it, the rest of you go down. No, let me do it. The 4 big shots fought to be the first, all wanting to exchange blows with Kai Miao. Hee, all of you can come at me together. Kai Miao laughed hideously. He only felt that the power in his body was still expanding, and had reached an inconceivable level. The number of stars obviously did not increase, but each star was more than 10 times larger, causing his power to skyrocket along with it. He charged out, and attacked the 4 big shots at the same time. Ping, 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 his offensive was too terrifying, forcing the 4 big shots to make a move. But even so, they were still at a disadvantage and were being suppressed by Kai Miao. I am the true king tier of the younger generation. Kai Miao laughed loudly. Although he could not defeat these 4 big shots for the time being, he could feel that the power in his body was still continuously increasing. It would not be long before he could crush these 4 people. Extremely refreshing. As expected, after only a dozen or so moves, the 4 big shots were all sent flying by a single punch from Kai Miao. Each of them spat out blood repeatedly, and at least half of their bones were broken. Kai Miao was more and more pleased with himself. His target was Ling Han, but he would not take the initiative to challenge him, because in his eyes, he was now the one who occupied a position of strength, so how could he turn around and challenge a weakling? He just stood here, and whoever came forward would be defeated with a single punch from him. When they saw that he was so arrogant, all the students exploded in fury. When had a traitor been able to be so arrogant? But even the 4 big shots were no match for him when they joined forces. The present Kai Miao was really too strong. Perhaps it would take 10 people joining forces to be able to suppress him. But even if 10 people joined forces and could win, what meaning would there be? Is there no one else? Kai Miao looked down, his expression full of disdain. Who else? Everyone was so angry that they clenched their fists, but the present Kai Miao was indeed strong, and they could only watch as he acted arrogantly. Detestable, detestable. Xiao, a figure flashed past, and there was another exquisite beauty of unmatched elegance in the arena, causing even the sun to lose its light, causing even the flowers to lose their color. Empress Luanxing. When it came to the Empress, even Hu Luo and the other saints could not help but feel their hearts sway, and a desire to possess her rose up. In this aspect, they were far inferior to the Star Sand Saint and the others. That was because the Star Sand Saint and the others all focused on teaching martial art, and they placed more emphasis on the natural talent of their students, but Hu Luo and the others were different. They did not have the slightest awareness of being a role model. Though they were all advanced in age, the desires that they should have had were not the slightest less. Cell phones were more refreshing to read. Chapter 1609. Bitch, you've indeed appeared, Kai Miao said darkly. He no longer had any illusions about Empress Luanxing. He indeed still wanted to possess the Empress, but not through courtship, but directly through violence. He now had such strength. Kneel. He moved, an incredibly dark thought in his mind. He wanted the Empress to kneel in front of him and lick and kiss his toes. The Empress disdained to speak, and merely delivered a slap at Kai Miao. But this time, Kai Miao was not struck, and instead raised a hand to block in time, stopping this palm strike. Haha, I'm not the previous me. Kai Miao laughed loudly. This feeling of power was really too satisfying. He reached out, grabbing at the Empress's wrist. Even if it was just touching her wrist, it was good to take advantage of her. Seeing this, not only were the students and disciples furious, even the saints of the Hu clan couldn't help but frown. You're just a tiny ant, and you dare to touch their woman? The Empress naturally would not let him succeed. Her fingers danced, shooting out a terrifying sword chi. Ping, ping, ping. The two of them continued to exchange blows at close range, but their strength was unexpectedly close, and neither could gain the upper hand. I can still be stronger, Kai Miao called out loudly. He took a deep breath, exhaled, and true enough, power surged in his body, and each of his heavenly bodies expanded again, reaching the limit. They could not expand any further, or they would explode if they expanded even a sliver. I am an invincible king tier. Kai Miao punched out, blasting at the Empress. The killing formation activated, but compared to his own battle prowess, the might of the killing formation was actually negligible. About the level of over 2 million heavenly bodies. Ling Han watched from outside and thought, in the Forbidden Lands, there were many prodigies like this, but they had all cultivated themselves, unlike Kai Miao, who only had a flash in the pan. He had to be clear that this kind of strength came at the cost of burning his life force. After it ended, even if Kai Miao did not die, he would become a cripple. At most, he would live for 100 years of an ordinary person, and then he would die of old age. The Empress could deal with this kind of strength. The Empress's expression was filled with pride. She used a celestial technique, and the darkness of the paramount night spread out. Boundless darkness enveloped Kai Miao, causing him to have no idea where his target was at all despite his powerful abilities. Not enough. Not enough. Kai Miao roared. He clapped his hands together, forming a hurricane that forcibly dispersed the darkness. In the face of absolute power, nothing could stop it. Queen was not discouraged. As she flipped her hands, she activated the flying dragon shadow palms. Pa, pa, pa. Multiple palm strikes landed on Kai Miao's body. The speed was so fast that Kai Miao was unable to dodge. Kai Miao was beaten until he staggered, but what was shocking was that his current defensive power was also extremely shocking. After taking so many palms, his expression did not even change, as if he had become immortal. Because this was the ultimate glory of completely squeezing out one's potential and energy. Kai Miao's recovery ability at this moment was comparable to someone who had cultivated the indestructible Heaven Scroll. Although his palm strike had caused a heavy injury, it had already healed in the next instant. After over 10 steps, Kai Miao had already stabilized his footing. He sensed for a moment, and when he discovered that he wasn't injured in the slightest, he couldn't help but laugh loudly. This strength was so strong that he didn't dare believe it. As expected of the means of a Saint King, it was nature-defying. It's my turn. He leaped back and launched a counterattack. However, he had only increased his power and had not cultivated any celestial techniques, so his offensive power was actually very limited. How could he possibly defeat the Empress? The two of them battled fiercely. One of them had endless celestial techniques, and the other had nature-defying recovery ability. No matter how heavy a blow he received, he could immediately recover, causing the battle to be at a stalemate. The Empress couldn't help but be angered. With a thought, she finally activated the ability of her bloodline, or rather, the ability of the 9 Deaths Heaven Art. Multiple doppelgangers walked out from her body, and suddenly, there were 10 Empresses standing gracefully on the battlefield. Doppelganger technique. Kai Miao was unafraid. How could doppelgangers compare to the real body? They naturally focused on confusion, and their battle prowess was negligible. The Empress moved. Boom, the 10 doppelgangers moved at the same time, each casting a celestial technique. Even Ling Han was stunned by this. Darkness of the Paramount Night, Flying Dragon Shadow Palms, Tide of the Ages, Lightning Sword Technique, each doppelganger channeled a celestial technique independently and blasted towards Kai Miao. Ping 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 ping. Kai Miao was blasted violently. His recovery ability was indeed astonishing, but he was unable to withstand the bombardment of celestial techniques channeled by 10 empresses at the same time. Very soon, blood began to spurt out of his mouth, and then his whole body was covered in blood. It could be clearly seen that Kai Miao's body had already become deformed, and multiple broken bones were protruding out. "I am undefeatable!" Kai Miao roared in fury. He still wanted to rally himself, yet his expression changed in shock. His power suddenly began to decline, and furthermore, it was a decline of 1,000 miles. In an instant, it had reached rock bottom. To say nothing of being invincible in the world, even his original state was far inferior. He instantly aged, his skin becoming loose, his hair becoming white, and his face full of wrinkles. In an instant, he had become an old man in his 70s or 80s, on the verge of death. He struggled, wanting to climb to his feet, yet did not have the slightest bit of strength. It was only a futile effort. He had been beaten to his limits by the Empress, and the battle had not yet ended, yet his life essence was already insufficient to support him continuing to burn. Not only had he been beaten back to his original form, he had also become immortal. The Empress waved a hand, and the 9 doppelgangers all returned into her body. She did not bother with Kai Miao, and directly walked back to Ling Han's side, and sat down next to him. She withdrew her domineering aura, and turned into a gentle little woman. On the battlefield, Kai Miao was still vomiting blood. He had lost all of his cultivation, and in addition, he had suffered such heavy injuries. He was already not far from death. He looked in Hu Luo's direction, still dreaming, hoping that Hu Luo would make a move to save him, but this was naturally just a fantasy. The people of the Hu clan only smirked coldly. They had only been using Kai Miao as a lackey in the first place, so how could they possibly care about the life of a dog? Meanwhile, the Star Sand Saint nodded at the Tranquil Heart Saint. The Tranquil Heart Saint understood, and he leaped out to pick Kai Miao up. The saintly power in his body surged, temporarily suppressing Kai Miao's injuries. "This person cannot die so easily," he said. All the students had thought that the Tranquil Heart Saint wanted to save Kai Miao. When they heard this, they couldn't help but nod. That's right, how could he die so easily after betraying the academy? Weren't you very arrogant? Why are you so arrogant now? Hu Luo was completely unconcerned. With a wave of his hand, he said, "Continue." A member of the Hu clan leaped out. He swept his eyes over the others, and finally fixed his eyes on Ling Han, and said, "I am Hu Yangchen, and would like to seek guidance from Brother Ling." He was going to get serious. Ling Han smiled calmly, stood up and said, "Since you are so eager to seek death, how can I not fulfill your wish?" Hu Yangchen couldn't help but be furious. He had the cultivation level of the pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier, and had more so formed close to 3 million stars. You are only in the high extreme of the Eternal River tier, so where does your confidence come from? Not afraid that the wind would sprain his tongue? Then let's battle. Chapter 1610. Hu Yangchen crooked a finger at Ling Han. He had a mission, and that was to force Ling Han into a desperate situation. Then, no matter who was standing behind Ling Han, they would definitely appear. The Star Sand Saint and the other saints did not have to worry. There was naturally an ancestor to suppress them. Ling Han leaped out, a faint smile on his face. "Ling Han, I'll give you a word of advice. Hand over the treasure trove of the Heavenly River King, and I can leave your corpse intact," Hu Yangchen stated calmly. As far as he was concerned, this battle was naturally something that was in the bag. It was not worthy of his attention at all. He had formed close to 3 million stars. Ling Han glanced at Hu Yangchen and said, "Since that is the case, I will also give you a choice. Do you want to be chopped into pieces, or grind into ashes?" Opposing each other with equal harshness, not showing any weakness. All the students clenched their fists tightly, feeling that their anger had been vented. Previously, they had been suppressed too harshly. Hu Luo had only acted casually, and Kai Miao had almost surpassed God, defeating many big shots in succession. Thankfully, the Empress was strong enough, and suppressed Kai Miao. But Kai Miao was a disciple of the academy, after all. So what if he was suppressed? It could only be said that they had dealt with a traitor. For the Hu clan, it was completely insignificant. But if they could kill Hu Yangchen, then they would have dealt a painful blow to the Hu clan. Of course, most people only thought about it. A Saint King was right by the side, so would Ling Han dare to kill him? Even if he dared, could he succeed? Previously, the members of the Hu clan had stood by and done nothing because they did not take Kai Miao seriously at all, but how could Hu Yangchen possibly be the same? Sharp-tongued, Hu Yangchen smirked coldly. With a thought, a galaxy appeared. Innumerable stars shone with blazing light in the galaxy. Pooh! All the students spluttered, their mouths wide open, completely unable to believe what they had just seen. Close to 3 million stars. This was not saint-level power anymore. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant, no wonder the Hu clan was so awesome. Just from this, everyone had to be convinced. Too powerful. No matter what, Ling Han could not possibly be a match for him, right? Senior brother Ling, he is in the pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier, and you are only in the high extreme. This battle is not fair. Yes, it's not fair. There's no need to fight. Many people said to Ling Han. If he tried to be brave, he would just be throwing his life away. You still want to escape now? Hu Yangchen sneered. He struck out with his palm, and the power of the galaxy surged, turning into a huge green eagle that grabbed at Ling Han. A cold glint flashed across Ling Han's eyes. His legs erupted with full power, and he suddenly charged towards Hu Yangchen. The blue condor arrived, but Ling Han did not dodge. Is this a suicide mission? Hu Yangchen sneered. All the students were on tenterhooks. Banish, Ling Han said softly. In the instant that the blue condor arrived in front of him, he suddenly disappeared. Xiao, he was not obstructed in the slightest, and had already arrived in front of Hu Yangchen. How is that possible? Hu Yangchen's eyes widened. He could not believe that his attack had actually vanished into thin air. If it had been neutralized or dodged, he could accept it, and had even prepared a backup move. However, he did not expect that Ling Han would actually be able to directly attack him from the front. It was completely unexpected, and he was completely caught off guard. Boom, Ling Han punched out. Humph! Hu Yangchen did not panic. Though he was somewhat passive, his power was who knew how many times stronger than Ling Han's. Even if he could only use a 10,000th of his power now, he would still be able to crush Ling Han. In terms of power, he could even stand shoulder to shoulder with a saint, and this was not awesome enough? Ling Han's punch landed, and only now did the 27 killing formations activate, exploding with endless battle prowess. He wanted to kill them all, and not give the Hu clan any chance to save them. All the saints could see that there were killing formations inscribed in his body, and there were quite a few of them, but aside from the Tranquil Heart Saint, who was a saint of formations, no one else could tell how terrifying so many killing formations added together would be. In reality, even the Tranquil Heart Saint could only guess, because no one had been able to do this before this. Since that was the case, how could he guess? If he activated the killing formations as soon as he attacked, the saints would definitely be able to tell how terrifying they were, but they only erupted when his punch landed. Even the saints of the Hu clan could not stop him in time. His punch landed, and without any suspense, Hu Yangchen directly exploded, turning into a rain of blood. Some blood even splattered on Ling Han's body. He did not dodge and bathed in blood. Today, he was going to go on a killing spree and slaughter another saint. Xiao, at this moment, the blue condor that Hu Fei Yang had shot out previously suddenly appeared, shooting towards an empty place. It had completely lost all meaning. The whole place was deathly silent. Who would have thought that a big shot that had formed close to 3 million stars would actually be blown apart by a single punch from someone in the high extreme of the Eternal River tier? Hu Lua was first startled and then furious. 2 flashes of chaotic chi shot out from his nostrils, causing even the void to tremble. At the side, the Star Sand Saint almost sat down on the ground. This had nothing to do with willpower or courage. It was completely a suppression of cultivation level. His original intention was to force Ling Han into a dead end. Then, no matter who was behind Ling Han, they would definitely appear. In that way, he would be able to make a decision according to the situation, whether to fight or to make peace. But he had never thought that he would not be able to force out the person behind Ling Han, and instead cause an outstanding descendant to lose his life. His emotions fluctuated. Boom, his head of white hair fluttered, and there were flames interweaving on his hair. That was the flames of fury that had materialized, and it could be seen how vile his present mood was. Dongping, capture this brat, he said in a low voice, and issued a command to a saint. Yes, Grand Elder. That saint received the command. That was the 5th saint of the Hu clan, and also a medium saint. His name was Hu Dongping. Senior. The Star Sands saint stood up, wanting to stop him, but was glared at by Hu Luo, and immediately sat back down. In front of a saint king, even if he was a great saint, he was completely insufficient. The Tranquil Heart saint and the others all frowned. A medium saint made a move, and even they were no match for him. What more Ling Han? Brat, who is standing behind you that dares make an enemy of our Hu clan? Hu Dongping asked coldly. Ling Han smiled calmly. If you are afraid, then speak frankly. Come, kneel down and call me Grandpa, and I can consider sparing your worthless life. Your sister's worthless life, my heaven's crippling leg. Xiao, a black shadow streaked past, and true enough, a foot kicked out at Ling Han. It was the large black dog. Ling Han casually waved his hand, and the large black dog suddenly disappeared. He calmly took a step back. Shua, the large black dog reappeared, and naturally missed his kick. Peng, he landed on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Damn brat, what strange technique have you learned this time? The large black dog scratched his neck with his hind leg. Anti-heaven, just don't seek trouble for yourself, Ling Han said smilingly. On the other side, Hu Dongping was half dead with anger. How much did this man and dog look down on him? They actually started to joke around right in front of him. Die! He spread out his right hand, and pressed it down at Ling Han and the large black dog at the same time. Chapter 1612. This battle was destined to have a far-reaching impact, but it would not be reflected in a short period of time. This was because news needed time to spread, and the universe was too big. Ling Han's lifestyle did not change. He continued to cultivate, and told the Rain Emperor, Su Ran, Ding Ping, and the others about merging the regulations of the two realms. He told them to begin experimenting with the regulations of the Black Tower and the Netherworld. After cultivating under the reincarnation tree for a month, Notionless Saint, Ding Ping, Zhuyao, Su Ran, and the others all shook their heads. They were completely unable to fuse the regulations of the two realms. It was absolutely impossible for the two realms to fuse. At most, they could just barely coexist. However, once they left the Black Tower, the regulations of the Netherworld that they had grasped would definitely be worn away by the heaven and earth of the immortal realm. Only the Rain Emperor remained in seclusion. 2 months later, he successfully merged the regulations of the two realms at the lowest level. Although it was only the lowest level, it still shocked everyone. If there was a first, there would be a second. It was only a matter of time. Ling Han couldn't help but be filled with admiration for this second brother of his. The Rain Emperor did not have the Black Tower, nor had he cultivated a Celestial King technique. He had completely relied on himself, and one step at a time, he had walked out an amazing path of cultivation. This was the real martial art genius. Previously, all of them had alchemical pills that Ling Han had left behind. Thus, they were all close to the eternal river tier at present. With the protection of an alchemy emperor, and added with the fact that they themselves were prodigies, there was no need to worry about their comprehension of cultivation level. Thus, their cultivation speed would not slow down even if they wanted to. Ling Han nodded. Once everyone had advanced into the eternal river tier, he could consider improving the pill recipe so that the medicinal effects would not be as fierce, and everyone would be able to absorb it. Of course, the fierceness of the medicinal power was also a manifestation of the effectiveness of the medicinal power. If he changed it like this, the medicinal power would definitely be greatly reduced. He had something to do again. Every day, he would ponder over pill recipes or discuss formations with the Tranquil Heart Saint. At the same time, he would accumulate his cultivation. Breaking through to the consummate level of the Eternal River tier was already imminent. Another 3 months later, the Empress finally took the crucial step and formed 1001 stars, officially stepping into the pinnacle level of the Eternal River tier. This attracted the heavenly tribulation. However, the Empress had 9 doppelgangers, so she could disperse the power of the heavenly tribulation. This meant that the might of the heavenly tribulation had been weakened tenfold. Moreover, the 9 doppelgangers could also face the heavenly tribulation at the same time. With the combined power of the 10 of them, the power of the heavenly tribulation had been weakened tenfold. This meant that she only needed to withstand 1% of the might of the heavenly tribulation. Naturally, it was a piece of cake. Following that, Ling Han finally broke through to the consummate level and began to face the heavenly tribulation. His heavenly tribulation was frightening. He took the initiative to shatter his divine bones and temper them in the heavenly tribulation. Wang, a golden path descended from the starry sky, and saintly might instantly pervaded the air. Even the Star Sand Saint and the other saints had appeared, so a saint had definitely come. I'm Qin Yu from the Baihong Forbidden Area. The golden path dissipated, and a saint appeared. However, there were still 3 juniors behind him. They were all in the Eternal River tier, and each of them possessed the bearing of a dragon among men. Greetings, Senior, the Star Sand Saint said with a bow. This was a Saint King. The Blue Feathers Saint King nodded. He headed towards the skies, and when Ling Han took the initiative to shatter his godly bones and accept the tempering of the heavenly tribulation, he couldn't help but look slightly shocked. This scene rendered even him, a Saint King, speechless. Is this boy Ling Han? He asked. In reply to Senior, he is, the Star Sand Saint answered respectfully. He was feeling slightly gloomy inside. At first, he was the strongest elite in several hundred galaxies, and even a considerable number of saints would have to respectfully address him as Senior when they saw him. But now, he had become a junior, and the next one that came was a Saint King. The Blue Feather Saint King was silent for a moment and said, "It is said that the few people from the 8 Stones Forbidden Land have all died here, yes." The Star Sand Saint's words were concise and to the point, but his heart clenched. The news of the battle previously had finally spread to the various Forbidden Lands. Tell me the details of the battle, the Blue Feather Saint King instructed. The Star Sand Saint spoke in full detail, not adding a single detail, nor missing a single detail. He only described it from his point of view. Furthermore, he even pulled out his own memories and reconstructed the scene at that time. 2 Saint Kings had joined forces to attack Ling Han, but in the end, they were insta-killed by Ling Han in 3 moves. This caused the Blue Feather Saint King's expression to change drastically. Before this, though he had already confirmed that the 2 Saint Kings had died in battle and disappeared, he still had some doubts, thinking that it was possible that some powerful Forbidden Lands had made a move and used the name of Ling Han to kill off the 2 Saint Kings. But now, he could be sure that he had guessed wrongly before. This young man had suddenly stomped on the ground. Behind him, the 3 young men also looked shocked. They really could not believe that a person whose cultivation level was lower than theirs could actually kill a saint, and what he had killed were Saint Kings, and perhaps more than one. The Blue Feather Saint King withdrew his shocked expression. He had already decided to get along well with Ling Han, and smilingly said, "Even passing a heavenly tribulation is so astonishing. No wonder he possesses unfathomable methods." He did not speak any further. It was obvious that he wanted to wait for Ling Han to pass the heavenly tribulation before conversing with Ling Han. The Star Sand Saint did not dare speak first, and could not leave either. He could only stand by the side, feeling even more gloomy inside. Now he was about to become a professional chaperone. And it could be imagined that the Blue Feather Saint King was only the first. There would be even more saints that would reach this stage. Half a day later, Ling Han passed the heavenly tribulation. With the circulation of a drop of indestructible true fluid, his body instantly reassembled, and he was completely unscathed. This naturally caused the hearts of the Blue Feather Saint King and the others to skip a beat. Young friend. The Blue Feather Saint King beckoned at Ling Han, his face all smiles. Ling Han landed, clasped his hands in greeting and said, "Greetings, Senior." The Blue Feather Saint King paused slightly, and then said, "Young friend, your battle achievements are impressive, and you have even killed a Saint King. I dare not put on the airs of a senior in front of you. What if you get angry, and kill me as well?" When he said the last sentence, his face was all smiles. He was naturally deliberately teasing Ling Han. "You can just call me Big Brother," he continued. The 3 juniors of the White Rainbow Forbidden Land were collectively petrified. In their hearts, their ancestor was serious in speech and manner, and had absolute authority. But now, it was actually his turn to make jokes, which made them feel as if their outlook on life had collapsed. Furthermore, Big Brother, gasp. Ling Han also smiled and said, "Then I shall accept deferentially." He had killed a Saint King and not just one at that. If he continued to pretend to be a junior, that would instead make the Saints uneasy. Besides, he was presently only in the Eternal River tier. What if he flipped out and became even more ferocious again? Ling Han and the Blue Feather Saint King conversed for a very long time, mainly regarding the matter of merging the 2 realms. The White Rainbow Forbidden Land had not joined the Heaven-Crushing Alliance, but this did not hinder their strength, nor did it hinder them from knowing how to open the doors to the Celestial Realm. Before this, everything was just a fantasy. They naturally had no interest in joining the Heaven-Crushing Alliance, but after a Ling Han appeared, especially after he had killed a Saint King, the White Rainbow Forbidden Land naturally became interested. They definitely had to board the ship. Even if the 2 realms did not successfully merge in the end, they would still be able to enter the Celestial Realm together with Ling Han. Thus, this time, the Blue Feather Saint King had personally made a move. They are tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.